Hi guys, how is everybody doing? How does it feel to not have live trial today? It's throwing me off a little bit. I think this is a great comment to start with. That illkidj slash half court says half court this week. So great reminder that actual real-time trial days are set to resume on Wednesday for the YSL trial. The jury won't be present, so they're going to be arguing some motions and maybe some evidentiary issues. Doug Weinstein was on Phil Holloway's Inside the Law show yesterday. Great panel. He mentioned that he wasn't actually sure if court would be necessary on Friday. But, you know, sometimes arguments that should be done in a day or two, the way we've seen things play out, maybe Friday, maybe the judge will say, yep, Friday is necessary, we're meeting Friday. So I think Friday's still up in the air, but Wednesday and Thursday there will be trial days without the jury present. So, and thank you guys. I see a lot of people showing concerns for the hurricane. We are supposed to get a ton of wind and rain here, so I imagine I probably won't be live streaming Thursday's motion hearings. I do anticipate that the power or internet will not want to hold up, but we should be okay over here on the East Coast. Guys, if you are on the West Coast, please pay attention to those surge warnings. This does not look like a storm to play with, and I hope everybody is doing what they can to stay safe. Again, if you guys need to use the chat to share resources, please do so. And hey to Snake Handler for being first, living life. Hey to Biff, hit that like button. It's good to see everybody. I'm so excited to have something to do here. And then Shay says it's almost afternoon here. Yeah, the time zones are a little interesting. Guys, if you see our good friend of the channel, Cash Money Cass, you might notice there's a new channel emoji. It's green slime champagne, and we could use it for all sorts of occasions. But Cash Money Cass got engaged. Last weekend we knew she was on vacation for her birthday. Well, she ended up getting engaged, so if you see her drop some of those slime champagnes, it's going to be a good time. And as far as pretrial hearings, there are links in the description to our part 1 and part 2. Part 1 dealt with a lot of the press coverage and requests for funding for gang prosecutions. Part 2 was really dealing with the arguments for the motion to disqualify Brian Steele and Max Shart from representing anybody in this indictment in this case, because they had previously represented other affiliates of YSL, alleged affiliates. And we got through the first called witness for the bond hearing, which is still on the screen here, Charles Mittelstadt. He was making the case that, look, we've gotten a whole team together. We've got everything unlocked to make sure Jefery Williams doesn't have untracked visitors to the house. It's going to be completely secured. And the state had no cross-examination questions for him. So we're about to move on to the second witness for Brian Steele's bond arguments for Jefery Williams. Get some captions on. We will be at 1.25 speed. You guys let me know how that works in the chat. We can speed it up, slow it down. And I think he just gets right off the stand. I think I queued it up right. Let's see.
Your Honor, we would call Mr. Jamil Mitchell, which is Jamil. Mitchell's Mitchell.
There we go. Got it right queued up.
Where's Mr. Mitchell? Is he?
He should be right here, Your Honor, coming to your court.
All right, Mr. Mitchell, if you would please approach the witness stand. Once you get there, if you'd be so kind to turn and face Deputy Talk, be sworn as a witness, please. Please sit down.
Jamil, Jamil Mitchell, Mittchell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mitchell.
How you doing, sir?
I'm okay. How are you, sir?
All right.
Can you do me a favor when the Honorable Court is ready? Just, where were you born and raised? But let's wait for the Honorable Court. Where were you born and raised, sir?
I was born in Jersey City, New Jersey, but I've been in Atlanta since I was 4 years old.
Okay. And when you speak, just address the court.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Steele, go ahead, I apologize.
Mr. Mitchell, where were you born and raised?
Jersey City, New Jersey, but I've been in Atlanta since I was 4 years old.
And where in Atlanta area have you been since 4 years old?
I reside from Cleveland Avenue.
Okay. What's your educational background?
I went to the University of St. Augustine, then I transferred and went to the Art Institute of Atlanta after my freshman year.
And what type of study did you do?
At St. Augustine, I was doing sports management, and then when I went to the Art Institute of Atlanta, I did videography, audio engineering.
Do you have any prior criminal history?
No, sir.
In your community on Cleveland Avenue, tell this honorable court the types of works that you do.
I actually own a nonprofit organization where we have football players and cheerleaders, so we trying to push kids into sports, you know what I'm saying? Trying to get them to do something positive instead of just being around, just running around, doing nothing.
Okay. And do you know the gentleman who is on this honorable court's Zoom screen, Mr. Jefery Williams?
Yeah, I've been knowing Mr. Williams since he was 13, 14.
Okay. Tell this honorable court the ties that Mr. Williams has to this community and what he does to support the community that you are in.
He actually supports my football team and cheerleading team a lot. He sponsored my football team with uniforms, banquets, buy trophies. When we do barbecues for the kid, he helps with that. He pays to cook. We did a Juneteenth event one year, a barbecue, because we never heard of it. So when we heard of it, we were like, okay, this is our 4th of July. So he helped give me money for that, and we paid to cook. He helped do a lot for the community, really, when it comes to the kids and everything.
And what did he, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just trying to push positivity with the kids.
And does Mr. Williams speak with the next generation of children to do positive things with their life?
Yes, sir. I have him plenty of times where we FaceTimed each other. Cause, he moves around a lot. He's an international star, so he FaceTime. I put the kid on FaceTime with him. They be excited. They shocked. They be like, "Oh, you really know him?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is my friend." He'll come to the banquet if he get a chance. He'll come to a game.
And does he also come to the area in Cleveland Avenue?
Yeah, he came there, passed out shoes a couple times, do community barbecues, feed the homeless. One year he came, gave out 90 pair of shoes to the homeless and to the kids out there. He do stuff for the community a lot.
How old are the children in the football program?
My crew go from 5 to 13. The 13 is the cheerleaders, but from football it's 5 to 12.
And are there girls playing, or a girl playing football as well?
I had a girl last year, yeah. I had a girl play football last year.
And what's the name of the organization?
Cleveland Avenue 49th Youth Organization, Development Organization.
Does Mr. Williams support that organization through the children as well as breast cancer?
Yes, he actually, I told him my grandmother passed away from breast cancer right when COVID hit. And he sponsored my football team with breast cancer uniforms. And on the uniform, you'll see his record label logo, because whoever sponsored, we put the logo on there to try to show support.
And what's that logo?
His label, Young Star Life Records.
Okay. YSL?
Yes, sir.
How about tell this honorable court what Mr. Williams did with trunk or treat?
This is around COVID time, so the kids couldn't really go trick-or-treating. And they not used to that, especially my daughters, they used to going trick-or-treating and stuff like that. So instead, I sponsored I teamed up with another program, another nonprofit, and we did something called Trunk or Treat, where we had people decorate their trunks. It was like going to a house, and we gave out candy, and then we gave the best trunk award.
And did you team up with law enforcement officials on that?
Yes, actually we did, because right where we practiced at, I guess they had a training academy back there, back there by the post office, and we had police out there. We gave them food, barbecued, everything. They was there, police was there.
And Mr. Williams is integral in all these events?
Yes, sir.
With regards to children going to school, getting educated, please tell us, honorable court, what, if anything, Mr. Williams does for school supplies.
We did a backpack giveaway one time in that neighborhood, or 2 times in that neighborhood, and he helped sponsor that, where he gives us the money, we go buy the backpacks, we put it together, and then we just give them out to the kids right before school starts. So make sure everybody have supplies for school, at least for the first month of school.
And we're talking about.
Now, this type of program is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I just want to throw it out there for anyone that helps participate in some type of backing the pack, filling backpacks for school initiatives. A lot of those initiatives, and he just said it here, and it's well-meaning, this is not a knock at anybody doing this work. A lot of these initiatives take place right at the beginning of the school year, and then in January when kids come back from Christmas break. But there is a need for in between. So a lot of these backpack programs could also be used to help kids get snacks, non-perishables, hygiene products, especially teenagers in school that parents are struggling, can't afford deodorant, and now you become that stinky kid in class. Think of what that can do to somebody in 8th, 9th, 10th grade, to be the stinky kid, and really your parents are struggling and can't just afford the products. So when you hear about these back the pack programs, find out if they do something outside of the back to school drives, usually in September and then again in January. A lot of programs do, but the support falls off outside of those seasons. Just side note there.
About papers, notebooks, pens, pencils, folders,
Everything
calculators.
You need. Everything you need.
And
don't matter the grade.
And that was Mr. Williams'
Yes, sir.
power behind that?
Yes, sir.
And is this for kindergarten through high school, everybody?
Yes, sir. Kindergarten through high school.
But the entire area in Cleveland Avenue?
The entire neighborhood.
And he does that often?
Yes, sir.
How about tell us, Honorable Court, what Mr. Williams did, if anything, involving shoe wear for people in the
Well,
Cleveland
like I said earlier, he just popped up one day, like, didn't nobody expect him to come, and then he had like 90 pair of Adidas, and he just gave them out. Like, anybody, if your size was there, you could have got a pair. A lot of homeless people got a pair of shoes. So he do a lot of stuff like that. Like, he just popped up that day, didn't nobody expect him to come.
How about food for the people in the community at Cleveland Avenue?
Yeah, we do barbecues a lot. We try to do that. Barbecues a lot just to feed the neighborhood. Then we did like a barbecue one time inside the apartments, and that's the same day he gave away the shoes. Okay. Like, we got plenty of things he do when it comes to that stuff.
And Mr. Williams feeds people often in that community?
Yeah, we do one big barbecue every summer, but we just do barbecues when we get bored. Like, let's have a barbecue.
How about
pay the DJ? We'll have a DJ come out there. Pay the DJ.
And this is all Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir.
Giving back to the community?
Yes, sir.
How about assisting in an effort to have children read and being interested in reading? Does he do anything with that?
Yes, sir. I had a book company, and I told him about it. And then what I did, like, whenever I got ordered kids books, I would give them out to my kids' school. Or, you know, if you go in the neighborhood, like, I stay downtown, you go in the neighborhood where they got put a book in and take a book out. Well, I just leave the books and I wouldn't take no books out. Or I'd give the books to my daughter. And I think she was in like the 6th grade when we started doing that. And I was like, you take some and give some to your friends or your teachers. And he helped sponsor that because during COVID, when my company was having a bad time, I told him, like, man, I'm having a bad time. And he helped me buy books. And then whenever I buy kids books, I just give them back to the school.
How about Mr. Williams actually speaking to people in the area? Does he do that?
Yeah, all the time. He's a motivator. Everybody know that. Like, without Jefery Williams, I'm gonna keep it real. Without Jefery Williams in the neighborhood, I don't know if y'all ever been to Cleveland Avenue, but without him, the neighborhood would be terrible. Like, you gotta think about all the people he helped motivate. Before rapping, it wasn't nothing else to do. He helped motivate people to rap, and I seen other people from my neighborhood get deals and become stars and do what they had to do. See what I'm saying? So to me, and I know to a lot of other people, he's a motivator to us. You know what I'm saying? Because before that, didn't nobody motivate us. We either were playing sports or running around.
Did you ever hear Mr. Williams talk to the people in the community, the vast number of people in the community, about staying in school?
All the time. He tell you that all the time. He got that. He tell people that all the time.
And what does he tell them?
Stay in school. That's the best way to do. What else you gonna do? Become a lawyer. Become, you know what I'm saying? Get into sports. Become a rapper, entertainer. Be a manager like me. I'm a music manager. Like, he motivated me to do that.
You ever hear Mr. Williams say something to the effect of be a thinker, not a criminal?
Most definitely.
And he tells that to the children?
Yes.
And the parents?
Yes, sir.
And it doesn't have to be hopelessness?
No, sir.
Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about, you know anything about Mr. Williams paying for the bond of strangers for the Fulton County Jail just because they couldn't afford their bond?
Yeah, I was actually there in the meeting when they was talking about it. Like, we're gonna pay for bond for people with bonds who can't afford bond. I'm like, bro, that's cool. Like, nobody does that. Like, you gotta think, Atlanta been a hub for music for what, the last 20 years? Name a rapper who ever bonded people out he never knew, never met before, and take them out to eat.
All of the items that you talked about, does Mr. Williams want any credit for that? Does he ever say, hey, put my name on this, tell people I'm doing it?
No, not at all. He's not that type of person. He don't want that type, like, he don't care about that. Like, he don't care about the credit. He
Now, there's an interesting layer to all of this. Cool, he's humble. He doesn't talk about what he's doing. Truly humble under God, if you will. But the other layer is, if the argument is that these rap lyrics that are so incriminating, inculpatory about Jefery Williams, if those lyrics are talking about what he does in his daily life, all day, this gang life that he lives, everything is slime all the time. But if he's actually doing all of these things and he doesn't write songs about them and they're not detailed in his lyrics, then how realistic, how much of a true story are his song lyrics when all of this stuff is omitted that we know provably he's doing? Right? So there's an interesting argument. I don't know if we end up seeing this argument made, but just think about that conceptually. And also shout out to Renee. Renee, you're being awesome in the chat. And then you sent a $5 super chat. Good morning, all my co-conspirators. Kat, do you know Brian Steele is in the Supreme Court? I think this week is what you meant to say, maybe. Let me double check the docket because I know he has an appearance on October 22nd and then on November 5th for 2 different cases. So let me check and see. I'll pull it up and I'll drop it in the chat. So pinning that, we'll hit the play button here to hear some more of these stories from Mr. Jamel.
Sit back and watch it, and I watch him because I don't know how other people, but I watch him. I see him. I'm like, yeah, he happy. Like they did something for the community because nobody did that for us coming up. See what I'm saying?
And he doesn't publicize it to your knowledge, he just does it.
He just does it for sure. He might just call you and be like, hey, let's barbecue. Call everybody, tell everybody to come. Everybody there, everybody eat. Don't nobody go hungry at all.
Your Honor, if the court would allow my coworker, I'm honored to work with Ms. Courtney Edwards, Courtney C-O-R-T, to get on your Zoom link. She's in your courtroom, but she cannot access it. I'd like to, with the court's permission, show the court a photographs and the prosecution for Mr. Mitchell to explain.
Where are they, sir?
Oh, it's in Colette's. It's in my wife's name, Your Honor.
So you
Okay, and for Supreme Court arguments, at least as far as something that's being argued orally, I'm not seeing anything until, this is small, October 22nd and then November 5th and 6th at all for the Supreme Court arguments. So I know that by chance, Brian Steele happens to be arguing on both of these scheduled calendar days for the Supreme Court. And one of them is in relation to, was it the Blaylock appeal? Let me double check before I say it and I'll get the right date. So I don't think this week. He might have had another obligation with a different case that's not in at the Supreme Court yet. But let me get back over here.
Oh, it's in Colette's. It's in my wife's name, Your Honor.
So you want me to admit your wife so that she can show me these pictures?
Yes, but it will be an alias because it's Courtney Edwards who's actually must be on that device.
I see your better half on here, but I don't see.
Much better. I agree with the court.
But I don't see Miss Edwards.
Right. She said that she's using my device that is in my wife's name, I assume.
All right, okay.
Mr. Mitchell, if you can look at what Ms. Edwards just displayed on the screen. And Ms. Edwards, if you could blow that up at all. Is
Shout
that
out to the
a
49ers
representation,
fans.
an example of some of the one of the uniforms?
Yes, actually, that's one of the uniforms he helped sponsor.
And you see the logo you were talking about?
Yes, sir.
And that's YSL?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it's the 49ers, the Cleveland Avenue 49ers?
Yes, sir.
All
We're playing
right.
in City League.
One more time?
We're playing in City League, yeah. So
Congratulations and thank you. Okay. Next, Ms. Edwards. Do you recognize, can you blow it up, Ms. Edwards? Do you recognize what this is?
that's our trunk or treat here we had.
And that's what you explained?
Yes, sir.
And that's behind Mr. Williams. I know he's not named on there, but that was his, him
Yeah.
doing that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was all for the children?
Yes, sir.
So they can have Halloween? Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, please.
That was a Juneteenth barbecue.
And Mr. Williams, again, without taking any credit, he's the one who was behind that?
Yeah, he helped sponsor the food, helped pay for the cook, everything.
And you called it our 4th of July?
Yes, sir.
And this was just brand new information? People
Yeah,
in
that
that
was
area?
something we never knew about. So when we heard it, it was an idea.
And Mr. Williams wanted people to be educated?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next, please. What is it?
That's the football team right there.
And all those uniforms, all the Gatorades, all the equipment?
Yes, sir.
Who pays for all that?
He paid for the uniform this year. We was doing the equipment and everything.
Perfect. Okay. Next one.
That's you can see the logo more often. You can see me out there coaching.
Okay. Next one, please.
It was the cook. This one we went to buy the food for the Juneteenth event.
And that's the cook who's going to buy all the supplies?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Williams is backing all this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next one, please.
And this was the event. I don't know if y'all want to play the video.
With the court's permission, Ms. Edwards, can you play it for a moment?
So
Okay,
you
Your
can
Honor.
see kids out there running around. Everybody having a good time. They tore down the volleyball thing the kids did. We had them out there playing volleyball. This is actually the park that we practice at, and this is the same park we had the trunk or treat at. And right behind here, on top of that hill, is what I was telling y'all, the police academy, or the volleyball thing up there. That was the police academy up there, where the police came and helped us.
Now, maybe you can't tell from the video, but many people come to this?
A lot of people come. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
This was the video when he came to the neighborhood
Your Honor, with the court's permission, can Ms. Edwards play that, please?
and he gave out shoes.
Yes.
Thank you. And this is just Mr. Williams just coming? And
Yeah, we didn't even know he was coming. He just came, and then everybody came out once they heard he was there. He gave out shoes to the community. A lot of homeless people got shoes.
And that's Mr. Williams right there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Coming back to the community.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mitchell, we are here for a motion. And a motion is I think it's a term being used a lot in courts, but we're asking this honorable court to consider releasing Mr. Williams on a pretrial bond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. On your oath, knowing Mr. Williams the way you have since he was 13 years of age, do you have any evidence or belief that if granted bond by this honorable court, Mr. Williams would flee the jurisdiction of the court? What that means is he would not come back to court.
No, he most definitely come to court.
Do you know if Mr. Williams has family in this area?
And what you mean, Atlanta?
Yes.
I know his whole family. Yeah, so he's never leaving his family.
His whole family's here?
Yeah, I know his whole family.
Same on your oath, any evidence or any belief, any speculation that if granted bond, Mr. Williams would obstruct justice,
No, he wouldn't struggle.
bribe a juror,
No, never.
intimidate a witness?
Never.
If granted bond, do you have any evidence that Mr. Williams would be a risk to commit a crime while out on bond?
Never.
And if granted bond, do you have any evidence that Mr. Williams would be a danger to any person in the community or any property in the community?
Never. He's a motivator to our community. So I can't see him hurting nobody.
When you say a motivator, does Mr. Williams actually talk to people in the community about being lawful?
All the time. We can get, if y'all want, we can bring hundreds of people in here from the community, and they can tell you one by one. He motivate them. Like, if you got I got a buddy who cut grass. If you cut grass, he'll help buy you more equipment to cut grass. Like, this what you want to do? Okay, do it, and do it 100%. He got to think. He stayed down with music, and we seen him go to the top and say the same thing. Stay down. You can have 3-4 lawnmowers. You can be hiring people. Like, that's how I look at him. I know, and a lot of people look at him like that, as a motivator. If they didn't, we wouldn't be in here supporting him.
I want to thank you so much. The prosecution and this honorable court may have questions for you.
Okay.
Scared?
All right, so they're going to pass him over to see if Don Gary wants to ask him any questions. And what do you guys think? This is probably a witness that we'll see called when it's the defense's case in chief, particularly when it's Steele's case in chief, which is probably many, many months away from now. So something I'm thinking about while watching this now is, you know, after we've heard the state call all of their witnesses in the actual trial, right? They call all these witnesses. They're the ones putting them on the stand. The state, in my opinion, is visibly frustrated with the way witnesses like Kenneth Copeland and Walter Murphy, DK, Jontavius Stevens, Tick, all have good things to say about Jefery Williams. And, you know, we used to work for him, but he sent us home because we messed something up. We weren't doing things right. We were in some stuff. Then that's bad enough. But when Brian Steele, towards the end of the trial, closer to deliberations, gets to bring witnesses like this up, it might be very memorable for it to be kind of bookending all of the other stuff we've seen so far during the state's case in chief. So just another interesting layer thinking about this. In a way, bond hearings can be a bit like a miniature trial. And also, before I forget, thank you guys for all the gifts. We're going to get to them, but the Steele appeal is no longer showing a calendar date. It was showing a date previously. Now it just says December 2024. Blaylock v. State is November 5th, 2024. And then that ill kid Jay had also asked, what's his alias? And it's Damon Blaylock, aka Bali. So there's a little update there for Georgia Supreme Court happenings. Big thank you here to Jay Sneed for also, I mentioned and I dropped the link in the chat. I'll drop it again right now. Nick Starro did a great video this weekend. It's like 15 minutes long, nice, short, and sweet. Looking back at an exoneration. This exoneration was for a case that Adrian Love prosecuted in 2012. It was a shooting in defense of others case. So affirmative defense, sort of like self-defense, except you're doing it to protect others. Where a security guard saw someone like driving through traffic, kind of going crazy, shot, ended up killing the woman driver. And Adrian Love prosecuted this case in 2012. And according to this exoneration story that he goes through, she was doing all sorts of shady things all throughout the trial. And one of them was in closing arguments. She made a legally improper and also factually incorrect argument during closing. About pre-arrest statements and silence. Even though the security guard wasn't silent, he actually spoke to detectives before his arrest. So you're not supposed to make that type of argument anyway during closing about someone's pre-arrest silence. But he also wasn't silent pre-arrest. So Nick did a great video. Thank you, Jay, for also giving a vouch for it in the chat. Dropping that link right here. Definitely check that out, guys. I think you guys will like it. Chloe Albert's Revenge says, I took the opportunity to educate my mom on this case and yell Free Thug out my sunroof this morning during Havana by Camila Cabello. Oh yeah, we gotta change the letters. Bamila Babello and Young Thug. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. And it's crazy, you know, I still see like Thugger Daily once in a while posting like things that get leaked. Like so much music from Young Thug still just on hold. 3 years. 3 years now. So shout out to you educating your mom. Let us know what your mom thinks. Here Comes Drama gifted 5. Thank you so much. Here Comes Drama. Saw you all over the YouTube streets this weekend. Awesome to chat with you in other chats. I think, were you in Inside the Law yesterday as well? Saw you in a few places, I think. But good to see you. And thank you so much for generously gifting 5 memberships here. You guys know the drill. Make sure you say thank you. And then Tia C gifted 1 as well. Thank you so much, Tia. Making someone green out here. Black Butterfly says, whole time Uncle Phil already had his mind made up. Glanville is a heartless individual. Yeah, I think he had his mind made up. And I do need to give a little grace here because the judge still needs to allow, to some extent, like, we're not going to have 100 days of presenting witnesses for a bond hearing, right? But to some extent, the judge still needs to allow a party to make their record and go through the proper form and procedure and make a ruling based on that information. So it is a big ask to ask for bond on these types of charges, especially for Jefery Williams, who's supposed to be the one calling all the shots. And in response to that really big ask, I think Brian Steele like really came prepared with the Charles Mittelstadt. Like, we've got everything surveilled. We've got law enforcement on it 24/7. Like, really came prepared with the offerings. So I don't think he truly took that into consideration, but in general, for really your average defendant, pretty big ask to ask for bond here. And I think even with all that Steele delivered, it's still a big ask. So I agree that he had his mind made up either way, but also want you guys to realize that if you go and watch bond hearings for someone that's charged with being the gang leader and there's murders involved, you know, probably shouldn't expect that bond's just going to be handed out like candy. And really, we saw the outrage when Christian Eppinger was somehow given a bond of all people, right? So I'm totally with you, Black Butterfly, but just want to make sure I'm not to the whole stream out here treating bond like it's something that's given out very easily for violent crimes. Renee Stevenson, thanks for the 2. You are welcome. And guys, so, you know, a lot of those days, I imagine YSL court will be going on with the Supreme Court arguments, but I'll still record it. And, you know, after those trial days, we can look at the Supreme Court, the Georgia Supreme Court arguments for the Steele appeal and for Blaylock. So we'll be able to watch those one evening. So that'll be awesome. Definitely going to be a good time. And then let's see. I don't know if Don actually asked questions. Let's see. Yeah, and exactly. His mind's already made up regardless. Like, whether it's a big ask or not, he's not paying attention. Risa here also giving a vouch for the Nick Starro video. Guys, it's really good, I promise. Shows that love has always been this bad and does this with every case she has. Yep. And so for the flip side of it, the exoneration, Andrew Fleischman, great person to follow on X, local attorney in Georgia that does criminal defense and appeals, tries to help overturn convictions, successfully did so in this case, argued several things, and what the judge agreed with was the improper argument that Love injected into her closing statements. So, you know, Andrew raised several issues, including ineffective assistance of counsel, but the judge made the finding, the appeals court made the finding that, yeah, well, the prosecutor shouldn't have been doing that thing that they did, which is, you know, that's great. That gives us a hard ruling, a judgment, a reversal because of Love's actions. So it ended up getting reversed back to a trial court for a new trial. And then with proper counsel, which I believe was still Andrew did what the previous defense attorney didn't do and said, look, we shouldn't even take this to trial because this was an act in defense of others. And the judge agreed, stuff was dismissed, no trial, guy is finally free and clear. And that all played out somewhat recently, even though this trial initially happened back in 2012. Definitely check out that video. Super, super, super awesome. And also shout out to Club Classy. That's going to be tonight at 8 p.m. I missed it on Friday, so I can't wait to check that out tonight. Thank you, Steph, for the reminder there. And a great way to unwind from some of this craziness. Let's see if the state, if Don Geary wants to ask any questions here of this man.
No questions, Judge.
Your Honor,
Mr. Mitchell, thank you very much. You can stand down.
Okay, have a nice day, Judge.
Have a seat, McGovern. Thank you. You're welcome.
Your Honor, we will call, thank you so much, Mr. Corey Jackson.
What's Mr. Jackson going to testify to?
Your Honor, he is a young man.
How many witnesses do you have, Mr. Steele?
Six, Your Honor.
Okay, and what's the next witness going to testify to?
Your Honor, he's a young man. He's just turned 15 years of age. He met Mr. Williams when he was 8 years of age. He was selling CDs in the Perimeter Mall. Mr. Williams, he was in poverty. He's from Jackson, Mississippi. His family's here as well in your courtroom. Mr. Williams explained to him that...
Hang tight. Mr. Steele, if it is your goal to establish that Mr. Williams has significant ties in the community, I believe that you've established that to the court's satisfaction. Not that I don't want to hear your witnesses, but it's cumulative at this point in time. I mean, if that's the purpose.
I know it's a bond hearing, and I know this isn't a trial with a jury present, with the jury's time being wasted, but guys, just take a minute to realize that Glanville just said, all right, you want to call a third witness? I'm concerned that this is going to be cumulative. Right? I know it's a different context, but still, holy moly. The state originally had a witness list of 700 for the actual trial, and Glanville's trying to stop from calling a third witness during a bond hearing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. C for cumulative in the chat. Holy moly. And also, what a sweet, sweet note here from Carrie Williams. Carrie says, hey, Kat, if you need a safe place to escape to, I have a spare room. That is incredibly kind and gives me peace of mind. I'm hoping we're good here. I have a second story, right? So if we do get flooding, we're not really... They're saying everything should be less than 1 foot, but you know how that can change. We do have a second story. It's a nice sturdy brick building with a new roof. So crossing my fingers, but this is incredibly, incredibly sweet, Carrie. Thank you so much. And if I need it, guys, I make sure my phone is charged. So, but after texting my mom, if something crazy is going on, I will post on X or post in a community post to keep you guys, in the loop on what's going on. And yeah, you guys are changing the C to C is corruption in there. But thank you so much, Carrie. This is incredibly generous. And guys, you never know who could need a place to crash when the weather's bad. Some people are afraid to let somebody know. Some people are afraid to ask or feel like they're being a burden. So a gesture like what Carrie's doing here is something completely applaudable. So you guys shout out Carrie in the chat.
Of these next witnesses, unless they go to some other bond factor, I'm kind of really at this point in time, I'm not really interested in hearing from him at this point.
Well, he goes more to a different factor, Your Honor.
And what's that?
Danger to the community, which is what I thought the state is arguing.
Okay, all right. If he's going to danger the community, all right. Come on up, young man. Please approach the witness stand. Once you get there, if you'd be so kind and turn face Deputy Talton, just to be sworn as a witness. Hold stand up for you. Okay, go ahead.
You raise your right hand. You swear in front of the testimony to give the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
You can take a seat. State the spell of your first and last name.
Corey Jackson, COREYJ, ACKSON.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you.
it's up to the court, and it's also up to you if you want to take off your mask with the honorable court's permission. If you want to keep it on, you absolutely keep it on.
Okay,
Your choice, young man.
I'd like to take it out then.
Mr. Jackson, introduce yourself to the court. Tell the court what you do.
Well, I'm Corey Jackson. I'm a recording artist, motivational speaker, and actor.
And are you
resume.
in school?
Yes, sir.
What grade are you in?
I'm in the 11th as of right now.
And you're 15 in the 11th grade?
Yes, sir.
How did you do that?
Well, I'm homeschooled and I stay up on my studies and I work on that.
Do you remember meeting a gentleman named Mr. Jefery Williams?
Most definitely, yes, sir.
Do you see him on this honorable court's Zoom screen?
Yes, sir.
And how did you meet Mr. Williams?
Well, the first time I ever met him was in the mall. It was in Cumberland Mall. I was probably 8 or 9 at the time. I had first met him with my music and I approached him and I didn't know who he was. But later on that day, after I had met him, I found out who he was as far as an artist, and I found out more about him. And then when I really met him and we made the connection, made the bond, was later on when I was like 10 or 11 years old at the time.
And
Okay, I have this on 1.25 speed, so that's probably part of it. But does he seem nervous? Oh.
were you in, I know it's personal, but were you in poverty at that time, if you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir. I understand what you mean.
And where were you living at that time?
Well, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi originally, so down there it's called Cornwall Street, Shady Oaks, Christian Brotherhood.
And is your father in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
And other family members?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell this honorable court if Mr. Williams ever took you to where he was raised on Cleveland Avenue.
Yes, sir, he has.
And tell the court what you learned from that and what the purpose was.
Well, at the time, he took me there because I always expressed to him how at me being at such a young age of being able to achieve what I have and have the knowledge that I do have, that's why I started motivational speaking, because I want to inspire the youth and show them that anything is possible. Because you can look at somebody while they're older and you say, oh, that's good, they're doing it, but now you have an example that's your age and close to you in age that's showing you that it's possible. And Mr. Williams, he took me to where he was from. And he showed me where he came from. He showed me the property that he lived in. And he told me, the saying, each one teach one, which is something that he lives by. And he has also helped instill in me that I live by now, each one teach one. And he told me whatever knowledge you have to be able to spread it, because this is who you are trying to inspire and show them that they can become successful. So that is what he took me there for, and to show me how he was able to achieve what he has and where he comes from. And what I have to do if I want to motivate more young people like me.
And tell this honorable court whether you have gone across our country talking to other students, people your age and younger at schools.
Yes, sir, I have. I've did different things like different school tours and doing motivational speeches for different organizations like the Boys and Girls Club and different things of that nature, and different youth centers, detention centers, of course, schools. Yes, sir, I have.
And has Mr. Williams put upon you the duty that you have to always be positive and try to get other people not to do crime?
Yes, sir, he has, and he has always motivated me in that goal and that mission. He's always showed me that path and always deterred me from anything that could be negative or affect me in a negative way. He always deterred me from that and showed me the right way and showed me a positive way to do anything that I have going on.
Has Mr. Williams taken you on tour with him, with your family's permission, and taken your family?
Yes, sir, he has.
And if you can remember, what are some of the places that you went with Mr. Williams?
Atlanta, Georgia, Los Angeles, California, St. Louis, Chicago, New York. I've been to New Orleans with them before, many different places, Tampa, and some more places. It's been a lot.
Houston, Texas?
Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas.
Okay. And have you been on stage with Mr. Williams and talking to people about all positive, motivating in a positive direction?
Well, yes, sir, I have been on stage with them, and we have also made motivational videos with motivational messages.
And when you go to schools, is that with Mr. Williams' request?
Yes, sir.
And what do you tell the other children when you're there?
Well, first I speak on my 5 keys to success, which are hard work, determination, dedication, motivation, and ambition. And I show them how you can utilize, if you are utilizing these 5 keys to success, how you yourself can become successful. And that is also what he helps and he sponsors me with. And when I go through the schools, I also speak on things that aren't at this stage in life taught, because while you're in school, you're going off of your report card. But when you get out of school, you're going to go off your credit report. And that's why I also teach and speak on financial literacy.
Mr. Jackson, did you ever have conversations with Mr. Williams about your, the way you are outlooked, and it has to be positive, as opposed to some people look at him with the name, quote, young thug? Does he ever explain to you that not to do that?
Well, actually, we have had conversations, and he has been very vocal about not liking the image that is associated with the name Young Thug, because whenever you picture that, you assume, you know, he's a thug. And that's why we have talked, he has discussed with me how he would like to reevaluate and reshape his image into his name Jefery, and how he would like to go forth with that being his name, and that's what people associate with him, Jefery, instead of the image of a young thug.
Is it Mr. Williams' communications with you that he wishes that people do not do drugs or alcohol or be a danger to the community?
Yes, sir. He has expressed that to me, and he has also expressed that to many others.
And does he use you as a lightning rod to express it to other people?
Yes, sir, he has, and he still does.
What is are you a member of YSL?
Well, I'm not signed to the label on papers.
What is YSL to you?
Well, to me, YSL is a family. To me, YSL is, ever since I first met him, it's been all love, all respect, and it has been pure. And for me, when we spoke on it, other than, you know, the name of the label, Young Stoner Life Records, I told him my YSL means Young Successful Life, because that's something that he has created. He is a young successful man himself, but also he is helping more young men and young women have successful lives, such as myself, for example. And that's why my YSL stands for Young Successful Lives, because that is what he has done, and that is what he is now creating and showing and putting into the community.
Sir, has Mr. Williams' tutoring and guidance to you taken you out of poverty and your family?
Yes, sir, it has.
Has Mr. Williams ever asked you for a nickel?
No, sir, he has never asked for no profit or proceeds from anything that he has helped contribute with. Never.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, Ms. Edwards has a very short video that relates to Mr. Jackson.
Okay, what's it supposed, I mean, he's testified here, so it's kind of like, so.
It'll explain background.
I don't see the dangerousness in this, Mr. Steele. I mean, he certainly, he buttresses again what I have indicated earlier, which is he has significant ties. He's helped a number of people in the community. But I don't see the danger of the community that you promised me from the testimony.
He's the opposite. I think that my promise is good. Mr. Jackson is saying that the entirety of Mr. Williams' desires is that people do not commit crime, do drugs, do violence, and to stay in school. That pinpoints the whole danger community is risk of crime, risk of committing crime. He's doing he's Mr. Williams through, and along with Mr. Jackson, diametrically opposed.
Okay, all right. All right, but this video, you want to show me, how long is it?
2 minutes.
And what's it going to show me?
It'll show you Mr. Jackson on The Ellen Show. It'll show him on CNN. It'll show him interacting with Mr. Williams, interacting at schools, just to give you an idea of how this message is all across the country.
I think he's testified that more insignificantly. I mean, I'll accept the video as proof of that, further proof of that particular issue, but I think Mr. Jackson here has well articulated that issue.
Okay.
Okay?
Then I have no other questions for Mr. I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me the time to come and speak.
Oh, you're very welcome, young man. Any questions, Mr. Geary? No, sir. All right, young man, you can step down and sit in the gallery if you like.
It's like, I get it that it's a different context, but still, cumulative witness concern. As soon as we get the second witness off the stand and are about to put our third up, this was the third witness here, this young man, Corey Jackson. And then also, can we play a video? Well, how long is the video? 2 minutes. And it's a different context, but it's just so crazy to hear that when we're on day 140 and have sat through like 6-7 hour videos.
Your Honor, I'd like to proffer the next person then.
Okay, who's your proffer?
Your Honor, she would like to be identified as Diamond, D-I-A-M-O-N-D. I have a video of her, a news video if you want to see it, but in the sake of time, but we have that if you want to see it. She is, she was raised on Cleveland Avenue. She lost her child, her son, to gun violence. He was murdered. She heads a team to stop gun violence. She is partnered with Trayvon Martin's mother, Breonna Taylor's mother, and unfortunately countless other persons known and unknown who've lost family members to violence. And Mr. Jefery Williams, she would testify, is instrumental with trying to stop gun violence and trying to get people not to think that this is a video game and shooting is okay and that everybody needs to speak about their controversies and their disputes and put down the guns. And she wanted that to be known, and there is a video if you want to see it, but otherwise that is my proffer.
I'll accept your proffer. That's fine, sir.
Your Honor, next is, he's a witness here, Mr. Kevin Lyles, which is L-I-L-E-S, and he has known Mr. Williams since Mr. Williams has been just an adult, and we'd like him to come and talk about the factors for bond. He is with the record label, Your Honor, and he has come here to give testimony on behalf of Mr. Williams, and he flew here from, he was out of state. He lives in New York, but I don't know where he flew here from.
All right, where's Mr. Lyles?
He is right here, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Lyles, good afternoon, sir. If you please approach the witness stand. Once you get there, if you so kind to turn to face Deputy Talton, the sworn witness. Before you sit down, hold on.
All right, so raise your right hand. You swear to affirm the testimony of the court, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you. I can take your seat. State and spell your first last name.
Kevin Lyles, K-E-V-I-N-L-I-L-E-S.
Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing, Mr. Steele?
I'll let you know. Can you do me a favor and give this honorable court, educate this honorable court on who you are, your background? The court may not be familiar.
Your Honor, I'm a 54-year-old father of four. I'm kind of emotional because how good this guy is. I have Morgan State University. I built a stadium in my old school. I have a street named after me. I have all kind of honorary doctorates. I employed probably 5,000 people. I was the president and CEO of Def Jam. I've been in this music called hip hop for 38 years. And for the life of me, I don't understand why I have to testify the good that hip hop has done around the world. I've also started a company with Jefery called Young Stoner Life. And I remember what he said to me. We're not just starting a company, we're gonna change some lives. And that's what he's done. And he's definitely changed mine.
Mr. Lyles, how long have you known Mr. Williams?
Well, I was a fan for probably 12 years, but I personally got to know him over the last 10 years.
Okay. And have you signed, or your company signed Mr. Williams?
Yes, he signed to us, and I hate to say that he signed to us because it's my partner, but we have two deals. One deal is a deal for him as an artist, solo artist, and the other deal is for Young Stoner Life.
And I know this is personal, but financially, there's been testimony that if this trial, and I'm not saying the court would allow it, but if it doesn't take place for a year, there'd be over $1 million in expenses just for 24-hour security of police officers to ensure, off-duty police officers' second jobs to ensure Mr. Williams does not flee, does not get types of weapons, does not intimidate a witness, is not a danger to community property in the community. Can he afford, from your personal knowledge and how much money he earns, can he afford that type of undertaking?
Jefery can afford it, and I can afford it, so it will be paid for.
And you are willing to back him as well?
I'm willing to back him personally and professionally.
Okay. Please explain, if you can, and discuss fully how your life intersected with Mr. Williams' life.
My job is to seek out talented people. And I think God brought us together in a very weird way, but I think we were meant to be together. Jefery is not just an artist. He's an influencer. He is a person that I think was put here to change the people around him. And he's so talented. He's creative, he's innovative, and he's fearless. He's a risk taker. And those kind of people, I call them change agents. I'm not signing just artists, I'm raising a young man. He looks at me as a father figure. He's not, like I said, we can't limit it to just his lyrics or his music. He's a young man, and he will be a contributing citizen to this world, and that's what I invest in. And I truly believe this whole thing that people are talking about, it's not him. The Jefery I know, give me clothes off his back. The Jefery I know, I can give him my kids, he'll give me his kids. That's the Jefery I know.
You mentioned lyrics. There's been a lot of argument by the prosecution about the lyrics in songs. Can you explain, if you have the insight, what is selling in the rap industry dealing with the lyrics, and why are they being promoted, and why are people wanting it?
Your Honor, you've I don't know how old you are, but no.
Older than you.
So, I've been fighting this battle for over 40 years. It's not new. And it's funny how we're the #1 music in the world now, and they want to bring this back up. Now, we don't argue about any other movies or other genres of music that talk about I ran them over in my truck, or I got drunk and I went and shot him. We don't bring those things in court. But quote unquote, our music, we've been on trial. And we constantly on trial about who we are, what we are, and why. And nobody gave us nothing. So we sit here on trial, we talk about lyrics. Lyrics. I don't understand the thing. I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna keep fighting for it because I believe self-expression. And I believe we should protect Black art. We should protect Black art. And I'm on trial for lyrics. Come on, man.
With regards to Mr. Williams, and the court may not be familiar, where does he rank in, if there is such a ranking, in the music industry?
Objection, Judge, that's not relevant to anything.
Shows his employment status, it's part of the Ayala factors, and whether the record company is going to continue to back him.
I think you've already established that to the witness, his role used to potentially,
So Glanville just gave the assist with the sort of asked and answered or 403 cumulative objection that Don Geary didn't actually raise. I wanted to pause right here because we heard a broader argument. You know, this is going back 40 years, and here we are again now that this is the most popular genre. Yesterday, I believe it was Inside the Law, and I forget the person's username. It was something on books, so it looked like an account that, you know, reads and maybe reviews a lot of books. They had recommended to the chat yesterday, and I haven't read it because I just ordered it, and, you know, it's been less than 24 hours. But it's Rap on Trial by Eric Nielsen, Andrea Dennis, and Killer Mike. So again, I haven't read that, but pulling it up to recommend it based on somebody else's recommendation. From what I've looked through the summary, it talks about exactly what Lyles is here on the stand saying. So if you guys like to read or want to learn more about this subject, let me make sure that, did that link work? Sometimes they get cut off on YouTube. Okay, so right there is the book that we're talking about. Yes, and Biff, you are right. Doug, I think, was familiar with the book when he saw the chat come up on the screen, when Phil brought it on the screen. So there you go. Just in case you guys were interested in that. I did order it, so I don't have a personal like endorsement or vouch for it because I just haven't gotten to read it yet, but I'm interested in the content. SteffJK, big thank you for sniping someone out here, turning him green. Always good to see you, Steph. It's like, I feel lost sometimes now when I go hang out in a stream and I don't see Steph. It's always good to see you. Chloe Albert's Revenge says, my brother lives in Jacksonville. I can send you there. Now be careful. Jacksonville floods pretty easily, so you guys gotta be careful. Lots of mushy and wormy water. I hate his girlfriend, so maybe I can kill two birds with one stone. I'll set her right. Like, listen, just be a better person. Be more enjoyable. Shout out to Chloe. That's very generous also. And Chloe also says, hey, Georgia, Bad Bunny's not actually a rabbit. M&M is not made of chocolate. Flea, you know, I actually have some questions about if the M&M candies are really made with real chocolate anymore either. They all taste so different now. All those Mars candies don't taste so good. Ugh. So I don't know if the actual M&M is made of chocolate either. Flea is not a bug, and Jefery Williams is not a thug. Got it. Listen, I think this is actually going right to the topic of that book, Rap on Trial. You know, when you pick your stage name in a certain genre, all of a sudden it can be used in a way to suggest something inculpatory in a prosecution, whereas that's not really the case for other stage names. Oh boy, always good to see you, Chloe. You are a gem full of insight and full of just like trivia knowledge, and have such an awesome way of tying it together. It never fails to amaze me. Yadat says, if unlove would ever indict us, I won't recall a thing. Where's that emoji? We've got the... Do I have an I don't recall? I did these crimes. Yeah, okay, we do have an I don't recall. I don't even remember anymore. Marlena Mack, good to see ya. Hope you're doing well. I'm literally crying. This is terrible. It was pretty powerful that he got right up there and was just overwhelmed by why he was here. Why he has to be here at all. And I don't know, maybe he cries often, but I think it's pretty powerful when you have someone say, look, I've worked with so many different artists, and then he can't hold back his want to cry because of the emotions that he's feeling. I think that's extremely powerful. Stephen T. Satchel also sniping out here. Good to see you, Stephen. And when we get back to regular trial, I do have some thoughts. Stephen T. Satchel brought up, and maybe we can get to it today, actually, towards the end of the stream, rather than breaking up the pre-trial, the bond watch, the rest of this bond watch. I think it might be better for when we have trial resume and we talk about it on a break. But the sound and the PA system and what's going on in these courtrooms, especially in a courtroom that's not equipped for a RICO trial with multiple participants that may need to speak at any given moment, in a room that's just not set up for that sort of thing. And the concerns that can raise. So Stephen is like a tech genius in my book. Very kind of him to support the channel here, gifting a membership, but can't wait to have a little bit of discussion on why it's so important that we can hear everything that goes on, and why it's so important that the judge can't just say, well, I didn't hear the witness hot mic something into the microphone, even though you guys heard it. Well, this sounds like we got a problem that we got to work around here. So thank you guys for all your support today. Let's hear more from Mr. Lyles.
Alternative release.
Okay. You understand that Mr. Williams was charged in 2018 in DeKalb County with a offense involving, he was riding in a car with two other people, and there was a gun and a small amount of drugs in the car. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, and you know that case is still pending, believe it or not, but it went up to the appellate court. I don't know, are you familiar with all that?
Yes.
Everything was suppressed by the Honorable Superior Court Judge in another county, and then the state appeal got reversed and it's pending. You're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Williams is actually on bond for that case.
Okay.
The allegation also entails the fact that when Mr. Williams was arrested at the home here in Atlanta, a search warrant was then executed at that home, and there were multiple firearms. One firearm was allegedly illegal. It turned into like a machine gun, and there were supposedly about 2 pounds of marijuana and some items in, looks like an energy drink, but it supposedly contains either Schedule 2, 3, or 4 drugs in it, codeine, supposedly. You familiar with that?
I read it.
Okay. Understanding all those facts, the DeKalb County case, current bond, and the search of the home, you're also aware that many other people were in that house at the time of the search warrant, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to ask you the following questions in addition to the fact that we are charging 2 counts in this current indictment. You're familiar with the RICO conspiracy and the gang
Yes.
count? Okay. On your oath, would you be willing to back with your own personal property and wealth, or as well as your own company's personal property and wealth, the bond for Mr. Williams if the Honorable Court wanted a high bond?
Objection, Judge. It's asked and answered. The witness actually has already stated that, and I agree.
Yeah, he already said he
I very clearly heard
he
that.
put up his own and his company's resources, so I'll stand objection.
Would you be willing, okay, if this is the same question, just, I apologize, but I thought it's a different question. You have to understand that you would, if the court wanted to, you would lose that wealth if Mr. Williams violated a condition of bond. I mean, it's not just go on bond with Mr. Williams in custody, you're released. The court could have you signed as a co-signer on that bond, and you would actually have a lien against your wealth if Mr. Williams violated condition of bond. Are you still willing to do that?
Like the son to me, yes.
Okay, without hesitation.
Without hesitation.
All right. Do you believe that if granted bond on your oath, Mr. Williams would intimidate any witness,
Nah.
obstruct the administration of justice,
No,
be a danger to the community or property in the community,
not at all.
and a risk to commit a crime while out on bond.
No, not at all. He has too much respect for me and too much respect for the company that we're building and too many people that depend on him. It's not about Jefery. It's why it's about the family. It's about the community. You know, he understands. He's inspiring the world right now. There's a kid that he changes their life every day. I really believe that.
For the better?
For the better.
I have one last question for you. If this honorable court granted bond, but it was very, very restrictive. Mr. Williams is not coming out to studios. He's not doing videos. Speaking with him may be curtailed. Is your record label still willing to keep him as a vibrant member of SIN?
That's my partner.
And just for the court's edification, I think you just said, but Mr. Williams is not only an artist, he's an owner of the company, right?
He's a businessman. I told him hip hop has given him a way to be an entrepreneur, a way to empower people, a way to educate people, and he has a responsibility. He knows that with this success comes responsibility, and we made a commitment to each other that we're going to do this for the rest of our life.
I want to thank you.
All right, so I have a question for you guys in the chat. Just from a perspective of, do you think it's interesting to hear somebody that's, you know, at this business level or operating with 5,000 employees, he's employed over 5,000 people. Me personally, I feel like there's something interesting in that, in a bubble, let alone relating to this trial at all. Like, to me, hearing somebody speak, it's like a TED Talk. It's like a miniature TED Talk. And all I'm thinking is, if Steele puts him on the stand when it's his turn to present a case in chief, it's just something that the jurors might tune into out of pure interest. This is an interesting witness. There was a similar witness in the Johnny Depp trial, and I wish I could remember his name. He was like movie Hollywood insider, which is just interesting, even for the stuff that had nothing to do with Depp and Heard itself. It's just easier to tune into because it's just like, oh, cool. It's like a lens. So just a side note there, wondering about jury focus, jury attentiveness, and looking to you guys in the chat to see what you guys think.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Hold on 1 second. Any questions?
No questions, Judge.
Okay, all right. Then I'll release this. Thank you very much, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Williams, I should apologize. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I'd like to proffer the next person. He is on your Zoom. Thank you for letting him come in. And if I say anything wrong, I would just ask, with the court's permission, if Mr. Garfield, Garfield, Larmond, Larmond, Jr. would make sure that I am corrected, because I'm not trying to say anything wrong.
What's
May I-
Mr. Larmond going to tell me?
Your Honor, he would say the following. He's a part of the management team for Mr. Jefery Williams II, also known as the performer Young Thug. Mr. Larmond graduated from Georgia Southern University with a bachelor's degree in business marketing. In 2015, he met Mr. Jefery Williams in the Atlanta, Georgia area. At the time, Mr. Larmond was pursuing a goal of his career of photography, but soon found himself receiving the opportunity to put his college degree to work on the management side. Despite his young age and lack of experience, Mr. Williams gave him the opportunity to learn how to manage and get involved in the music industry. But now moving forward to 2002, he would state that he has built a strong, well-rounded, and positive relationship with Mr. Williams, a relationship that he upholds with the utmost respect. As an individual in society, he would testify, Your Honor, that Mr. Williams is kind, well-spoken, intelligent, and a giver to the community. Not only does Mr. Williams influence millions of listeners around the world with his music, he does so with his actions as well. During the holidays, Mr. Williams ensures, anonymously, to give back to the community through toy drives and City of Atlanta donations to various organizations such as Planned Parenthood, to the Cancer Society, and others to support causes that affect people around the world. Just recently, in 2021, Mr. Williams, along with the record label, paid bonds for numerous inmates in the Fulton County jail system in an effort to reunite people with their families, show them no matter what, they've not been forgotten or lost, and Mr. Williams didn't know any of these people and didn't ask for anything from them. Mr. Williams is a family man. He has his parents, 6 children, brothers and sisters, all right here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. If Mr. Williams is not working and bringing his talents to the stage outside of the state, he spends every holiday and celebration in Atlanta with his family. Mr. Williams' family gathers together for dinners, Christmas celebrations, birthday celebrations, and they have recently purchased a home for future family gatherings not too far from this courthouse. Mr. Larman would tell this honorable court on his oath that there is no world where Mr. Williams would abandon his side of the family and children in order to avoid fighting this case. His family and the community are both large pillars in his life, and they both support Mr. Williams throughout every court date and every step of this upcoming trial. Mr. Williams has never been convicted of a crime. He has never missed a court date, and Mr. Larman has personally traveled the world with Mr. Williams. They have performed on every single continent, Your Honor, except Antarctica. Mr. Williams has performed in front of as many as 300,000 people, and he always returns to the state of Georgia with no issue. Mr. Larman's oath backs Mr. Williams for pretrial bond. Mr. Larman was also at the home at the time of Mr. Williams' arrest. He would testify, and it's on video, the surveillance video, that there were many other people in that home. Mr. Williams did not have a gun. Mr. Williams did not flee when the police came to the home. I received telephone calls.
And hold on, I see Lauren Victoria Burke. So good to see you in here. Guys, I am going to drop Lauren's channel in the chat. Not a name that you might recognize from anything relating to YSL, but LVB, she, for short, guests on the Roland Martin show a lot, does some very incisive coverage. One of my favorite cases to follow through her was the Jonathan Majors trial. Great breakdowns, boots on the ground. She's often in the courtroom for the trials that she's covering. Just incredible person all around. So, link in the chat. LVB, I'm not sure how much you've been following this trial, but you have such a great perspective on how media and press and politics interact with criminal prosecutions and criminal justice. If you want to jump up and give a spiel, a quick Lauren Victoria Burke rant, I will drop a link. Let me know. Honored to have you here.
From Mr. Larman, I received a telephone call from Mr. Williams. I told Mr. Williams, no one's going to hurt you. Surrender peacefully to law enforcement. He asked me to please come to that area. I came to his home. Mr. Williams was then, after I got there, escorted out of the house. He did nothing wrong. He was actually drawing in the house. There are drugs and guns in that home, according to law enforcement. Mr. Williams, I've interviewed these people already. They hide those items from Mr. Williams. He can be drug tested. He's been drug tested, by the way, since 2018. Mr. Larman would testify to what I just said. If I am wrong, Mr. Larman, though, you have to correct me, because this honorable court takes that as your testimony.
Yeah, I will accept that, Mrs. Crawford, okay?
Thank you, sir.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, sir. Your Honor, this is Jeff, which is Geoff Ogunlesi, and he is in your courtroom.
What's he going to testify to?
Your Honor, he is...
All right. If you are available, this is for LVB only. Although we might open up to a panel stream later. You know, I have nothing against a panel stream. I'm just usually unprepared. But Lauren is a busy person. So if she has some gems to drop for us or some insight to share, I will take the opportunity right now if she can offer it. So StreamYard link is there in the chat if you're available to come up. Let me know. If not, we can just move on. We can get on to the next witness. Just awesome to see you. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've chatted. And also, you guys, thank you for the hurricane concerns. I am on the East Coast. We are supposed to get rain, some pretty strong winds. But so far, all the preparations are, you know, if you're on a barrier island, which I'm not, you know, some flooding concerns for that. Flash flooding. I am well stocked to prepare for a power outage. So thank you guys for your concern. If something changes, if there's something crazy coming up for Brevard County, I might consider going somewhere else. It's pretty easy for me to jump in my car and go, so that's not a big deal. But I am prepped for power outages. So thank you so much. And yes, I am on the East Coast. I am in Brevard. Oh, so I also enjoyed Isaac Baruch, but I was thinking of Richard Marx as far as like the Hollywood expert, because I think Isaac was kind of more like a fact witness for the relationship between Depp and Heard, and also somewhat of a character witness for Depp. But I was thinking of Richard Marks. That is the name. So we need some time for Lauren to get ready and she'll join us. So I'm very excited for that. Let's look at this next witness.
Very close with Mr. Williams. He's a very accomplished young man. He's very, very well known in the music industry. He will testify that in 2018, I received word that there was a warrant from DeKalb County for Mr. Williams' arrest. Mr. Williams was actually performing at that time in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mr. Williams, it was the first ever tour with a performer known as J. Cole, Your Honor. And when Mr. Williams was informed that there was a warrant from DeKalb County, he immediately left the tour, missing several dates of the tour and significant income. He turned himself voluntarily in, I was with him, Your Honor, to the sheriff in DeKalb County, and he would testify that Mr. Williams will comply with all conditions of bond, and he will not be a flight risk because Mr. Williams' commitment to the law, to the family, to his family, to his musical career, and his roots here in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and that if Mr. Williams did become a fugitive, he would end all of his contractual obligations, all of his money would end, and all of his royalties would end because he's, as a fugitive, nobody would deal with him. It would be harboring a fugitive.
All right, so sorry for the pause. Lauren, you good to come up? Oh, you ready? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I just got to turn off my sound on the other guy, which I kind of lost the screen. Yeah, I found it. Okay, yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, can you give an elevator pitch? Because I'm sure you'll explain yourself
sure.
better than I did. I'm not very good at introductions.
No, you were fine. You were fine. It was great. Thanks a lot. You were fine.
Dropping your channel again in the chat. Everyone say hi to Lauren. Now, from a perspective of the intersection of criminal justice and press and media, like, what's your umbrella top level take on all things YSL?
You know what? This is a very strange case. I have not followed it other than watching you, and I haven't really watched that much. But when the judge went off recently, I started getting curious again. So I was sort of, confused by that. And usually judges do not do that in the courtroom. But I don't want to go black helicopter or anything. But politics does intersect almost everything in our lives. And when I see some of these prosecutions, I do have to wonder, like, who brought this case? The who brought this case question is kind of where I come from. These prosecutors have a great deal of power. And why are these cases brought and on whose behalf? So I'm sort of innately suspicious, but I have to admit I am not well-versed yet in this case. I have to go back and watch your videos and find out what's going on because you know a heck of a lot more than I do on this case. But I'm having a suspicious feeling. I'm having a feeling that, whoa, a lot of money is going into prosecuting this and a lot of attention is being paid. And so that, to me, there's got to be a good reason for that. And I don't know that I'm seeing that. But again, I can't, I'm speaking from a position of ignorance, so I will be paying more attention.
And so this is a pre-trial rewind that we happen to be watching, and sitting at the state's table here are two of those people are no longer with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Don Geary has left. The girl sitting next to him, Lisa Rosenwasser. I always forget her name and just call her Lisa R. She left January of 2023. So they're gone. Like, the turnover has been insane through this case alone. And previously they didn't want to bring this indictment forward. Then suddenly in 2022, they do. So, most of the stuff, the major stuff from this stems back to 2015 timeframe.
Yeah. I just have a sneaking suspicion when I see a lot of entertainers, a lot of people with money who are getting a lot of this sort of attention from our judicial system. Typically there's a deeper reason for that. And I'm somebody who's worked in the federal government and the state government in Virginia and New York, and in the media, big media in New York at ABC News and in Virginia at USA Today and a lot of others. I just, this is a business model, as I think most of us know, that is not doing particularly well, particularly broadcast. Everybody's cutting the cord. The viewership is going down. And when you see that, there's some connections between some of the stories that we are looking at all the time, and of course the money that's coming in and the traffic that has to get driven, and channels like yours that play like micro attention to a case like this become extremely popular, as we can see right now with over 700 people watching, your
Watching a
commentaries.
pre-trial from 2022.
Exactly, exactly. And I've seen you make much bigger numbers than that, and that becomes extremely valuable to anyone who really wants to know the details, because we're not really getting the details from mainstream media. So there's a lot of folks out there who are very smartly covering things, such as yourself. And those metrics are changing really rapidly. And I just think that, this is media is something where you have to be feeding subjects through the machine, Now, I don't think the prosecutors are in the back room with a bunch of media companies, but there is a nexus sometimes between somebody famous being prosecuted who makes money on the back end.
Oh, I agree. And I think it's one of my questions is I feel like a lot of media companies don't really have a person that can follow the intricacies of, explaining what's happening every day in the courtroom, and also following the story details, like who the people are, why we should care about their names. Really, one of my favorite, it's a few of them, but Joseph Papp with Atlanta Journal-Constitution, just the way he's able to combine with brevity explaining what happened in a given trial day, and also connect and follow the dots on who the key names are, the key dates, the key incidences that are being alleged. I think there's a very small pool of people in the media world that have the time and or skill set to do that. So that's another reason you don't really have these big outlets devoting resources to it, because maybe they're weighing the payoff and return. But when Brian Steele gets held in contempt, we can run an article on that, because that's everyone's going to tune in.
That's
like
exactly right. Yeah, no, that exact analysis is exactly right. They have to spend money on a person to go down and cover this thing every day. And a lot of times there's just somebody in the public who frankly does it better. I certainly learned that with Jonathan Major's case, and also learned that with the Johnny Depp case. There were several people covering Johnny Depp who were covering that case a lot more in a more detailed way than the so-called mainstream media. And I'm sure mainstream media can see that, but it's sort of like, really? I mean, I'm surprised they haven't approached some of these people and said, look, just come work for us, because when you're getting beat,
be a panelist.
Right, exactly. I mean, they're getting beat on these stories. So it's been interesting. And this case has had me confused. And when I saw that little scene with the judge a few days ago, I said,
recently Whitaker, right? When Whitaker snapped, Judge Whitaker, the female, when she snapped on the state, or I don't even know if you guys are what if you're being malicious or just unprepared and unorganized at this point. That snap, not the Glanville snap from months previously.
right. The Whitaker snap is the one. And when I heard that, I said, whoa, that is a serious dressing down. And that you typically don't see that in any case, but much just a big case that a lot of people are paying attention to. So that was a moment where I said, maybe I should pay a little bit more attention to this. Wow.
Yeah, I think those moments are good for trial awareness, because it's a big ask to ask someone to catch up with 140 days. But at the same time, if you tune in, our next day will be 141. I'm not gonna lie, Lauren, if you tune in on day 141, you'll see the exact same shenanigans. You won't be missing the shenanigans just because you didn't see them happen the first 10 times. They will inevitably happen again.
Yeah. I my suspicion is deepening. I'm a child of a cop, New York City cop, and I have some cops in my family. I have a judge in my family in New York, and so part of what you start to realize, even though I have no problem admitting that my father's overtime paid for my college and all that, there's just a system that the gears are turning, and those gears for those gears to turn, somebody has to be in that system. And sometimes I think it is not necessarily perpetuating because of need. It's perpetuating because you have to have a subject that you go after. And I think a lot of these prosecutors sometimes overstep. And starting to look at the Eric Adams case a little bit on that. And we'll see. But this is a case that I will be paying a little bit more attention to through you primarily, because your analysis.
I'll be following you for Adams, because you are probably going to be boots on the ground for that. I mean,
probably, yeah.
Probably. I can imagine you being right up in the courtroom with the update. So guys, if you're interested in following, I think I still have the link on copy and paste, but let me definitely great. LVB's link, dropping it in the chat again. What's interesting to me on that is Alex Spiro. I always want to see Spiro. You know, that's an entertaining attorney to watch. You know, did some work with Elon Musk, just did the Alec Baldwin with the Rush trial. He has no problem raising a ruckus. So if you guys like entertaining attorneys, passionate advocates for their clients, I would say a different personality than a Brian Steele, for sure. But nevertheless, 10 toes down for their client trying to argue their case.
Yeah.
Alex is another one, totally different personality, but I definitely think that will be a good one to watch just because of the choice of counsel.
Alex Spiro, I'm one person removed from him. I was consulting 2 attorneys on a case in Virginia Beach that Alex Spiro started on. It was a police shooting, tragic police shooting. Police officer shot a guy to death, and they ended up paying out $3 million to the family. But Spiro started the case, and to your point, he is excellent at media. You could see already he's speaking out on behalf of his client, the mayor of New York. And he's very good. And when I saw that, when I saw the mayor hire him, I thought, "Whoa, this is going to be interesting."
It's just like you just said.
Yeah,
be good.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things of all time. It was supposed to be an Elon Musk deposition, but it's really Mark Bankston from the Sandy Hook trial versus Spiro arguing back and forth in this deposition. It's just a transcript. It's not an audio. So we were reading it back and forth. But Elon like barely speaks. It's just the two of the attorneys sparring the whole time.
Right.
So always something I enjoy to see. Oh, man.
Great stuff. Really good. I put my TikTok in there because I have a video blown up on TikTok. I'm hoping
can you put it in the private chat if you have the StreamYard window open?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
know. Let me see.
YouTube, if you paste a link and you're like not a moderator in a channel, it will just like hide your comment automatically. But if you share it in the private chat on StreamYard, I can drop it. And that's another thing, guys. You always hear me say I don't really get on TikTok, but great way to consume content if that format works for you. And LVB's there, so follow her there.
Yeah, I'm so afraid that TikTok's going to go away because the government keeps fooling around with TikTok, but I love it because it's very easy to blow up on TikTok, you know, and it probably is on Instagram as well. I just don't do Instagram as much, but I'm falling in love with TikTok. So anyway, you know, it's great seeing you. Great talking to you.
Thank you for the update for Eric Adams. I'm going to tune in to you.
Yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to be. I've already said a few things on Roland Martin Unfiltered about Eric Adams that were completely not what the other panelists were saying. You know,
that's why I love you so much on there. I love you so much on there because you tell it like it is. You don't just need to fit the room, the vibe of the room.
Right. I didn't fit the vibe of the room. And Ellie Mistel was one of the panelists, so it was really funny. It was just Ellie Mistel was like, "Oh, he should resign." I said, "We don't even know the facts of the case yet. Why is he resigning from office on the indictment? Like, are we resigning on the allegation?" I'm not a fan of not seeing the facts before making a decision. So, yeah, we'll be doing some more Eric Adams. You know,
I agree and I respect it.
I love it. So yeah, Kat, do your thing. Great stuff. And I'll be watching.
Thanks so much for coming up. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's great seeing you. Great seeing you. Great talking to you. And I'll see you soon. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. And there you go, you guys. So links there in the chat. And we will get back to it. It feels weird going back to this stream and it's a Zoom screen. I promise it's the pretrial hearing. But again, make sure one more time here, dropping Lauren's link. Follow her on YouTube. There's a bunch of other cases you can go back and do a look at. She's really good at doing like top 5 things to know or top 7 things. So really good shorter content to digest stuff. But also as the Eric Adams, as that all moves forward. Probably the perfect person to follow there. So thank you guys so much for a warm welcome to Lauren. Let's resume. And I wasn't paying attention earlier, but just noticed Mr. Stillwell over here. And let's get this playing.
Mr. Ogunlesi, Your Honor, is the current Vice President of A&R for 300 Entertainment and Vice President of Young Stoner Life Records. It's a record label that was created by Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, by the way, Your Honor, is CEO of that record label. Mr. Ogunlesi has worked since the inception of the 300 Entertainment company in 2014 and for Young Stoner Life Records since that inception since 2016. Young Stoner Life Records has become a hugely successful Black-owned company, enjoying millions of records sold. In 2020, he also became Mr. Williams' personal manager and has been working on a one-on-one relationship with Mr. Williams since Mr. Williams' ascension to stardom. But he'll also tell you that his relationship transcends Mr. Williams as an artist, a record label, or a business partner. They've developed a deep friendship. He would tell the court that Mr. Williams has achieved the following successes. He was 2017, Your Honor, MTV Music Video Awards, Best Editing. He won that. 2017 United Kingdom Music Video Award, Video of the Year, Best Urban Video, Best Editing Video. He won that. 2018 MTV Music Video Awards, his Video of the Year. That was a song called Havana with another great artist. They won that. 2018 American Music Awards, Collaboration of the Year, Video of the Year, as well as Favorite Pop and Rock Song. He won that. 2019, Mr. Williams won Grammy Awards for Song of the Year. In 2020, Soul Train Music Awards, Mr. Williams was the Best Collaboration as well as the Best Dance Performance. Won that. 2022 at the Grammy Awards, Album of the Year went to Mr. Williams. 2022 XXL Awards, Your Honor, Video of the Year, Mr. Williams was deemed the winner of that. Also in 2014, BET or Hip Hop Awards, Mr. Williams was nominated for Who Blew Up, Make You Look Award, and Best Banger Award. 2015 BET Awards, Your Honor, Coca-Cola Viewers Choice Award was nominated for Mr. Williams. 2017 United Kingdom Music Award, Vivo Must See Award. 2017 Music Video Awards, Best Production Designer in a Video. 2018 MTV Music Awards, Song.
Yeah, at this time, this is nothing but repetitive.
It's pretty impressive to show who we're dealing with, Your Honor.
But you've established, I think, his ties and his depth, so I'll accept Mr. Ogunse's proffer and what he would testify to in its entirety.
Yes, of course. Ogunlesi. Your Honor, since flight is the most significant issue that this honorable court has to deal with for consideration of bond, as the cases that I've already referred to, Mr. Ogunlesi would also explain that Mr. Williams prioritizes his family. He's had opportunity after opportunity, even before he was well known. He had an opportunity in 2015 to work with Kanye West, Kanye West, W-E-S-T, to collaborate and work. It was a rare opportunity. Mr. Williams wanted to bring his family with him, his sister, his mother, and Mr. West stated no. And Mr. Williams then said he didn't want to hurt his sister's feelings, so he declined that opportunity. And that's who we are dealing with, Your Honor. He is not a risk to flee. And I appreciate the court saying that he has ties to the community, but also a risk to flee the jurisdiction of the court. Is that true, Mr. Ogunlesi? He's raising his hand to the court and said yes. Your Honor, Dr. Matthew Norman is here, I believe, in your courtroom. Okay, he is outside, Your Honor. Hopefully he will come in. And
Is Dr. Norman outside?
Judge, just a question. We were told 6 witnesses, about 8 witnesses ago, so I'm just curious how much we're going to repeat.
Yeah, Mr. Steele, I believe that we already have, I was clicking off that as well. By testimony or by proffer? This is number 6. Mr. Ogunlesi would be number 6.
I wasn't counting the proffers.
I'm counting those. Because you want me to accept you want me to accept his testimony, so.
Of course.
So.
Well, I have 3 more witnesses or proffers, but I'd like to make them for the court's understanding.
What's this?
Mr. Williams, where he's being held, and he would, I'd ask him to educate the court what the conditions are for Mr. Williams and how that Dr. Norman is a very well-known psychiatrists, and how the studies show that the conditions that are being placed upon Mr. Williams is living under are detrimental to his mental health, and they disintegrate people. And that's what Dr. Norman is here for.
Judge, not relevant to the IAL factors.
It's not, Mr. Steele, and I have great respect for Dr. Norman as well, and having had him testify in court on for the state and for the defense on a number of matters. I don't believe that would be one of the bond factors that I would need to consider in this case.
Well, I'd like you, may I just make my statement for the record then? And I'll do it myself. Okay. And if I say anything wrong, I'm saying it's not wrong. Your Honor, currently, Mr. Williams is held 22 out of 24 hours a day in a cell, except for when I, or Mr. Adams, or Ms. Hornsby go to see him. That cell, according to Dr. Norman, will break a person's spirit. I attached.
But that's not part of the bond factors. I mean, pretrial incarceration is viewed as being oppressive. It's not lost on the court. We don't jail people for shucks and giggles. That's why we have bond hearings, and the case law that you eloquently pointed out tells the trial courts of their responsibilities. But I don't need to hear any testimony on that. It's not lost on the court of what incarceration, subjects people to. So I don't think it's relevant for purposes of my bond consideration.
The reason I'd like the court to consider it is as follows. It was not requested by Mr. Williams, but he's treated differently than a typical pretrial detainee, and it's said for his protection. That's what the sheriff has told me, and the sheriff is always nothing but professional. The problem with that is, it is detrimental, it is punishment, and we don't punish pretrial, and that's the cases I gave to the court, and that's why I thought Dr. Norman was important, because having an ill effect on a gentleman who's presumed innocent, and if they can't make conditions for him, I've made those conditions. I tried to put together to this honorable court conditions that would satisfy this honorable court that Mr. Williams will be a good person.
I hadn't made that decision yet, Mr. Steele.
No, I know.
But with all due respect to you and Dr. Norman, that's not something that I need to consider at this point in time. I think it's fair to assume that, and I don't get involved in our good sheriff's business as well, but, he and his colleagues and teammates have a methodology of what they do for the inmates that are there, depending upon what stage they're in. And, that's independent of my determination of bond. So I certainly, in terms of the bond and the factors for granting bond, it's not something I need to hear about. I'm going to take it at word that being in jail is problematic for most folks, and that he is presumed innocent, and that the issues of being granted bond or bail, I will take into account. Okay.
And then, Your Honor, we have in your courtroom Gara, which is G-A-R-A, Dallin, D-A-L-L-A-M. Your Honor, he's a bonds person, representative of Free at Last.
I'm sorry, I was right. So I'll take Dr. Norman. I will take what you were going to proffer about Dr. Norman. I will accept that, but I agree with the state. It is not relevant for the purposes of my making a bond determination. But okay, so what about, who's the bondsman you have here?
The gentleman who is seated right here, Your Honor, waving at you. His name is Gara, G-A-R-A, or Gara, excuse me, Dallin, D-A-L-L-A-M.
One more time, D-A what?
D, as in David, A-L-L-A-M.
Dallin, okay.
And he's a representative, Free at Last Bonding Company here in Fulton County.
Okay.
He would testify that an ankle monitor can be used, even if this court got rid of any electronic equipment in the house. It would have to go to a landline, and then that landline obviously could be just for the, not to make calls, it would just be for the ankle monitor alone. And that the insurance company is willing, they have already vetted Mr. Williams, his ties to the community and his risk of flight, and Free at Last bail bonding and the insurance company are willing to stand behind Mr. Williams' bond if this honorable court grants bond. And under the case that I gave this honorable court earlier, that's for the significance of that case, whereby courts take into consideration the fact that there's another layer of protection with a bonding company on a bond. If I said anything wrong, Mr. Downs, you need to correct me.
No, sir, you're correct.
Okay.
And then, Your Honor, we have Counselor Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, who should be here. And he's raising his hand to this honorable court. He is actually the preferred person that Your Honorable Court, Fulton County, many counties, but use for all the drug programs in the counties, We had the pleasure of using him. Judge Adams wanted, Judge Adams of DeKalb County, DeKalb County Superior Court Judge. And when Mr. Williams was on bond for that case, Judge Adams wanted Mr. Williams to be drug tested. And even during the pandemic, Counselor Michael would meet with Mr. Williams, give him drug counseling and drug testing personally. And these are all filed in the court in DeKalb County, and I could give a copy to the court if you want it, from November 26, 2018, until the Honorable Judge Adams said, this is ridiculous. He's proven that he's not on drugs. It goes up to January 28, 2022. Mr. Williams was not using any type of codeine or lean is what they call it, or other drugs, Your Honor. That's 3.5 years. It's approximately 3.5 years, Your Honor, and that's why we will be fighting the open warrants here from the search warrant on the May 9th arrest of Mr. Williams, the search warrant of the guns and the drugs. Mr. Williams is not using those drugs, and not with the guns, and other people actually live at that house more often than Mr. Williams. He will testify that he would continue, he's actually pursuant to our request, continuing, we need an order from the court, but continuing counseling with Mr. Williams 1 time a week for himself, 1 time a week with his partner. And when he's been at Mr. Williams' home, there are no drugs in sight, and Mr. Williams tests negative. That would be Counselor Michael.
All right, Chair, I'll accept the proffer.
Is that true what I said, Counselor? That's true. Your Honor, there are some videos that we have, and I can proffer one from Colson Baker, Colsombaker. He's a performer known as MGK. It's in Exhibit S. I've already submitted it to this honorable court. It's in a Dropbox link. You could look at it yourself if you want. And he talks about Mr. Williams assisting the community. There's also other videos that we've already given to this honorable court, talk about Mr. Williams appearing when there's tragedies like hurricanes or tornadoes. He is constantly going to other states, as well as when there's tragedies here in Georgia, and performing for free. All the monies go to Target to restore the neighborhoods. Mr. Williams has employed thousands of people had studios put up in the Cleveland Avenue area, so children don't have to think that it's all about selling drugs and running the streets and being in gangs, that they can go and have places to be with sports, dance, reading, tutors, and the like. Your Honor, I have Mr. Williams' passport. We'd ask that if this honorable court grants bond, the passport be surrendered. I could either hold it personally, and I would not release it without order of this court, or we can give it to the court or the sheriff or whoever the court designates. Your Honor, there's also a gentleman, Mr. Cohen. He is the worldwide person who does all of Google Music, all of YouTube Music. He's on a video that you already have. It's in Division or Exhibit S. And he stands behind Mr. Williams, bond, all 4 factors of IELA, and he puts his reputation next to Mr. Williams as well. Your Honor, I along with the Honorable Avis Hornsby, as well as the Honorable Keith Adams, we will be ready for our trial. We understand the enormity. I've only had 2 cases with this type of discovery that I'm being told 5 terabytes would fill up the entire hallway on the 8th floor of the Fulton County Courthouse or more. You can't get through that discovery, so what we did in other cases, we have a search engine company that we already spoke with. I asked Mr. Gary, he's been telling me he will get it to me, there's no problem. He's an honorable person always. And we are going to go through the discovery. It's like searching Lexus. We're not going to be able to read everything. No one's going to be able to read all that. But we do our search terms, and we are with the court on the 9th day of January 2023. If that gets bumped, because I understand that there's a lot of people here, the court may say I don't want to sever, or some people may ask for continuance. That's granted. That's why I filed the demand for speedy trial, understanding that I'll file it again once it's good with Judge Brasher's order. But I wanted to be upfront with everybody and give everyone notice that that is our intent. Your Honor, Mr. Williams has family in your courtroom. His father is here, Jefery Williams Sr. His mother is here, Bertha, B-E-R-T-H-A, Greer, G-R-I-E-R. He has brothers. They're not all here, Your Honor, but that's not for, that's for reasons of violence. But it's Oscar Greer is his brother. Quinton, Oscar is typical spelling, Greer, same spelling. Quinton, Q-U-I-N-T-E-N, Greer is his brother. Letitia, L-A-T-I-S-H, Greer. His other sister, Angela Greer. His brother, Gregory King. His other sister, Wyshena, W-Y-S-H-E-E-N-A, Greer. His other sister, Alexis, A-L-E-X-I-S, Greer. His other sister, Catherine, C-A-T-H-E-R-I-N-E, Greer. His other sister, Dorothea, she goes by Dora Greer. And Mr. Greer is the second, Mr. Williams is the second to youngest. All these people are in the Atlanta area. They're all here. They all would testify that they would swear to the ILF factors. Jefery Williams' children, Your Honor, he has 6 children. They're all here. They live with him. Most of them live with him. Kyvion, K-Y-V-I-O-N Jackson, he's a 14-year-old son. Jacob, J-A-C-O-B Ragland, R-A-G-L-A-N-D, 12-year-old son. Haiti, H-A-I-T-I Rice, 11-year-old girl. Amari, A-M-A-R-I Steele, S-T-E-E-L-E, 10-year-old girl. Hayden, H-A-Y-D-E-N Rice, 7-year-old girl. Jameer, J-A-M-I-R Ragland, R-A-G-L-A-N-D, 7-year-old son. They're all here in this area, Your Honor. Your Honor, the way I understand the law is that the issue is flight risk. And this is how I've always understood it, and that's why I gave you the Coleman case. It came out in November 2021. The preeminent issue is Mr. Williams going to come back to court? If the answer to that is yes, then conditions have to be met, if they can be made, for all the other factors, which is intimidating a witness, danger to the community, property and community, obstruction of justice, risk of commit a crime. And that's why I brought Mr. Middlestat, and I want to thank him. I want to thank everyone, but I want to thank Mr. Middlestat, especially, Your Honor. What we have developed, I hope, is anticipating every potential that could go wrong. And we have Mr. Williams now with sworn law enforcement officers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He is confined to his house, and under Brown, B-R-O-W-N, versus state case, Your Honor, I gave this honorable court, which is the 2012 case. Our court realized that our legislature is using things like electronic monitoring, house arrest, rather than the in-custody treatment that Mr. Williams is currently undergoing. Your Honor, based upon this record, I will ask this honorable court to permit me to answer any questions that you have. In addition to that, we filed on at exactly midnight on Sunday, May 22, 2022, going into Monday, May 23, 2022, our brief in support of pretrial release and pretrial bond. It has several attachments. I know this honorable court well, and that you've read it and digested it, but there are multiple attachments there about other people who know Mr. Williams, who all vouch for the fact that he will come back to court.
Ugh, I'm breaking it because I pulled up a YouTube window. First of all, congratulations. Cash Money Cass has finally joined the chat. You may remember at the beginning of the stream, I said we had a new green champagne emoji. And that was for Cash Money Cass and really any other future celebration, any needs that we have to celebrate something. But she's finally in the chat with us. Congrats on your engagement, Cash. So excited for you. And also someone was asking about the steps for Apple users to... There's 2 things. I believe if you add /allow_gifts to the end of any channel's URL, and I'm putting it in the chat if anyone that's using an Apple device that's never enabled the setting to be able to receive a gifted membership. If you guys want to try that and see if that works for you to enable it, let me know. I think that is the URL. Also, if you're an Apple user and just want to become a membership, you want to become a member on your own, just use a different device or go to your web browser and you should be able to do that. There's a link in the description of all the videos, so see if that works. And then yeah, also, who said Slimosas? Kissin' Pink said it. Oh man, hilarious.
Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. Adams and Ms. Hornsby, I wish to thank Mr. Williams for allowing me to stand with him. We will be ready. I, of course, want to thank this honorable court for everything it does for everyone at all times. Mr. Williams will be objecting, as I know the state's aware of this, to any dealings where they're proffering that Mr. Williams' lyrics mean something or he's on a video. We want to challenge that evidence. We are not accepting it, and we rely on the case law that he is presumed innocent of any type of criminal activity. Thank you.
Okay. Here, before you get started, I'm a person of a certain age, and I've been sitting here a while. I need to use the facilities, and I think many of you probably need to do so as well. So we will be in recess for about 15 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and let you present that point in time, okay?
All right, so let's move forward. I think the timestamp was like, let me check. Stupid me. I timestamped when they end up taking a different recess. Let's go here.
We can continue. Mr. Geary, was it your preference to go ahead and deal with Mr. Steele's assertions first, or do you want to go ahead and let Mr. Sharp make his presentation, and then you just deal with both of them, whatever your pleasure?
I'm not sure counsel has filed a bond. You did file one? Okay. Then I'd like to respond to them one at a time.
Okay, all right. Then, okay, go ahead and you can respond to Mr. Steele's presentation at this point in time, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, I'm going to rely on the statement of age to say that I'm about to have a Paul Harvey moment. We're sitting here and you got the song and dance, but now you're about to get the rest of the story. And the rest of the story will tell the court why a bond should not have been granted or should not be granted in this case. Of course, the court is aware of the indictment. The court is aware of some of the evidence that's been presented in the other cases and or proffers. We intend to, again, proffer in this case as well. Hearsay is admissible, and we intend to go in that direction. And Judge, I'm going to say something here in a minute, and it's not my intent, please, to offend the court. I'm going to go somewhere with this, so please bear with me in a second. This is all about money. This is an attempt to say, Judge, I can buy a bond, respect to the court. Judge, everything you heard was someone that has a financial interest or some other professional interest relying on Mr. Williams. Yes, they need him out. Yes, they need him to be there. Yes, it's very important to them because it's all about the money. Mr. Williams has said in his songs, it's all about the money. And there's no difference. That's exactly what it was today. It was, I've got money. I can pay for whatever you want me to. But here's the problem. And I'll get to the specifics in a second. Every other defendant that's had a bond motion, we've shown they're a danger. And there's no issue about, well, what can, okay, can you pay for this or pay for that? They don't meet the Ayala factor. Okay? They want you to just get by, Judge, by the Ayala factor and say, here's what's more important. We can pay for all this. But their logic falls on themselves. The investigator that came up very nicely stated, jails are corrupt, they can get stuff in there, and he shouldn't be in there for that reason. What officers are they going to hire? How do we know? Because there's no supervision if he hires those same officers he's speaking about in the jail or on the road to be those 24 officers. Now we have even less supervision and less ability to ensure the safety of the community. So again, it's about the money and what can I do to pay my way out of jail. Judge, I understand all of the witnesses that just testified and the proffers that were made, but bad people sometimes do good things. Even the Gambinos, one of the big crime families, the crime boss, they had charities. They ran legitimate businesses. They did that as well because they want what Mr. Williams wants. He wants the appearance in the community. That's what he put up. He put up the appearance in the community, and he put up people that are financially dependent upon him. And quite frankly, that's objective for relevancy, and that's not relevant to the facts of bond. The fact that he can pay $1 million a year is not relevant. Your Honor, Mr. Steele stated to the court that guilt is not a factor and innocence is not a factor. I wholeheartedly agree. But the nature of the offenses charged Guilt or innocence is at a time later. And that's the reason is why if someone's charged with a misdemeanor, they automatically get a bond. Felony, they've got to come before a judge and ask for a bond and be judged on the Ayala factors 1761. And that's why that's that way. And for the court's knowledge also is, and it was talked about, and I don't know the court's intent, so I'm going to address it one way and the court can inform me otherwise, is we have two things here. We have the indictment charged that I understand they're seeking a bond on, and then we have a separate case. That separate case is 22 CP 208957. That is the arrest of Mr. Williams on May 9th, 2022. And that is the one where in his house, there are drugs all over the house. There are weapons all over the house. One of the weapons has been modified to be a fully automatic weapon. Mr. Williams is talking about how important his children are. To my belief, Judge, one of his children was there present in the house. And these guns aren't locked up. They're out. I do not believe a cruelty to children charge was filed, but I believe the evidence certainly would have supported it, Judge. Judge, there was a sawed-off shotgun or a sawed-off illegal dangerous weapon. There was an automatic weapon. The court was already informed by Mr. Steele about how much marijuana was there. When the police arrived, one of the individuals tried to flee the house. It was obvious what was in the house and what was about to happen, so one of them decided to run. And I'll be fair, that was not Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams did not attempt to run. Judge, I want to say, and I told Mr. Steele I would do it this way, since the last time I was in front of the court, we have evidence and information of even more threats to our witnesses. But I want to be clear, I have no evidence directly that Mr. Williams made a threat or directed anybody to make a threat. But our witnesses in this case are being threatened with violence, serious violence, and death. Again, I have no direct evidence that Mr. Williams has done this or was involved in that. What I can tell the court is Mr. Williams is the head of YSL, and the S doesn't stand for stoner, it stands for slime. It's young slime life. Judge, this gang, and I call it that because that's what it is by definition of Georgia law, this criminal street gang pre-existed the label record. So as a spinoff, he used YSL again and substituted one of the words. I believe he does have a clothing line. Like I said, I believe many of the crime families get into legitimate businesses, and I believe Mr. Williams has done no different. Judge, I want to say this too, contrary to what Mr. Steele said. He has always appeared. No, he hasn't. When he was arrested, he had an FTA. Now, I will say, and be honest to the court, I believe it was for a traffic offense. But then the logic is, if he's willing to blow off a traffic offense with no recourse, I think he'd surely think about blowing this one off if he's looking like things aren't going well. So he did have an FTA, and it was current on his arrest, which was 9 May of this year.
When was the FTA from?
When was it from?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I can't answer that question. I apologize.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Steele put up that there's no evidence he's done drugs. You know, he's had these drug testing. Everyone knows we listen to jail calls. We've got a call from Mr. Williams at Cobb County that he needs help for his drugs and he needs to detox. He needs drug help. That's on a jail call. So that's directly from Mr. Williams. So that's not accurate. I know Mr. Steele says he's got his visa. Mr. Williams now.
Passport?
Pardon, Judge?
Yeah, passport? You said visa.
Well, passport, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure.
Yes, sir, Judge. I'm just used to one of those red things that I know the court knows, and that's what I've always traveled on. Judge, he's got access to a private jet. Now, I don't know if he owns it or if he leases it. I know he continuously flies on a private jet out of PDK into DeKalb County. Again, I'm not speaking for or against the officers that are on this list. I don't know any of them. That list has not been provided to us. We've already been contacted by 2 police agencies who want to know, because if their officers are on that, they will not permit that to happen. So there might be some pushback on that list. I take the investigator's word that he's cleared all that. I don't know. I don't know who's on the list, Judge. Judge, I will also say that we have taken proffers from fellow gang members from Mr. Williams. Some are on this indictment, some are not. They have stated uniformly that Mr. Williams is dangerous. They are afraid of him, that if they cross him, he will kill them and their family. And they were very clear about that. Your Honor, when I said the other case, I want to also go back to that 22 CP case. A bond hearing was held on that. I have a copy of the results from the court. I believe Magistrate Judge Robert Wolf on the 11th day of May, 2022, denied bond on the charges based on the arrest. And as it stands now, it is no bond. Now, what I understand from the order, and I'm going to provide this copy to the court in a second, it was denied for a flight risk and risk to commit additional felonies. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may, sir.
Can I see that one more time? Do you mind?
Yes, sir. May I approach, Judge?
You may, sir. Thank you.
So respectfully, Judge, if you're not considering that today with the indictment, as I understand the motion, then he's already on a no bond for 2 of the Ayala factors. Your Honor, count 1 alleges racketeering, and it basically alleges that the enterprise, if you will, for the racketeering is a criminal street gang as defined by Georgia law. That criminal street gang is a gang called YSL. That's Young Slime Life. Young Slime Life has a reputation, if you will, both inside and outside the court system. Your Honor, I'm going to go through some of the things in the indictment, just to let the court know. Mr. Williams, in Act 4, which is from 9/9/13, had a stolen firearm on him. Now, I will say I believe his counsel was, in fact, Mr. Steele, and that act was to a pretrial. So it is not a conviction, but it is still a predicate act under Georgia law. He did possess a stolen weapon. I will say there's a Act 9 on 4/20/14. It is a song. The name is EWW. And in it, basically, the defendant says, all I ever wanted was the money. Basically, if you mess with me, you go into a wheelchair. That's what that one says. Your Honor, we have other, and I'll leave some of the social media, I'll handle that generically for the most part, but we have numerous social media posts where the defendant is in what I would call gang colors, flashing gang signs with his fellow gang members, some of which are his co-defendants on this indictment. And on those, they are, on the videos, they are replete with gang statements, gang hand signs, threats, etc. Judge, and again, they're listed in the indictment. Judge, the murder of Donovan Thomas that we've spoken of a few times, that's basically Act 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. In that series of acts, in Act 16, the state can prove that, or I will say this, it's the state's contention that the car used in that murder was a car rented personally by Mr. Williams just days before. And evidence will come in concerning the beef between Mr. Williams and Mr. Donovan Thomas that involves another well-known rapper and how that gentleman's career was going to go. And Mr. Thomas and Mr. Williams had a serious disagreement about that, which led to Mr. Thomas's untimely death. Your Honor, on Act 25 from January 25th, 15, we have a conversation. A conversation is an electronic digital form where the defendant states sacrifices must be made, soldiers must fall in order for battle to be won. And then it goes on to talk about everyone has to line up between all the sex, money, murder, which is a subset of blood, which basically YSL comes under, that they must all line up under one of 5 leaders, and they must do so immediately. And that is again from Mr. Williams. Your Honor, on 126,
Is that in a, you said that's in a digital?
It's in a
format?
digital format, yes, Judge.
Is it a conversation? Tell me the context.
Yes, Judge.
Okay. It's a conversation?
It is, I believe it's in the form of a group chat where Mr. Williams is putting this out to many, but to his crew.
And when did this occur?
This occurred on 1/25/15, Judge.
Okay.
Okay, now the next day, 1/26/15, remember, now let me take you back again already. On 1/10/15 was the murder of Donovan Thomas here in Atlanta, Fulton County. Okay, so approximately 16 days later, Mr. Williams releases a video. And he's basically stating, or doesn't basically state, I should be quoting, is that he basically says, if anybody goes into a courtroom and tells the God's honest truth, and pardon my language, they need to get fucking killed. And again, that's only 16 days after the murder of Donovan Thomas.
So do you guys see what just happened? There is apparently a group chat conversation where they're talking about soldiers must fall after blah, blah, blah for a battle to be won. Now, that's something that personally, if you and I were sitting in a living room, we're having a conversation, like if this YouTube chat was a couch, a living room, not a casting couch, but a hangout couch, we're hanging out and we're like, oh, wow, someone just got killed. And, you know, we know that they're affiliated with some blood gang affiliation. One of us might say, oh man, that means there's going to be more lives taken. There's probably going to be more people that fall because, you know, there's going to be a battle, an all-out war in retaliation. We could say the same things that are apparently in that conversation just as a conversational observation. And then they take that Instagram, that 17-second video that was reposted, that they insist was posted after the killing of Donovan Thomas, that Brian Steele has now laid out was actually in existence before. And they say, well, this means that that general statement was actually specific to these men going to court, committing these crimes, and how they shouldn't be snitching after they do these things. This is a great rewind to see in retrospect.
And that was a threat that still is being talked about by some of his own gang members and some of our witnesses as to what will happen to them if they continue to cooperate. Your Honor, on 7/7/15 in DeKalb County, Mr. Williams made a threat when he threatened a head of security from Perimeter Mall. And I will tell you that DeKalb County dismissed the case. They thought the threat to be conditional. I don't have that requirement as a predicate in a RICO count. So the terroristic threat resolved or formed from Mr. Williams and his associates entering the mall on those two-wheel hoverboards, and the mall told them they weren't allowed to have them. They informed mall security that to F off, they could do whatever they wanted to do. You can't tell them what to do. Mall security followed them out to the vehicle to inform them that they now have a trespass warning and they have to leave. As the officer, who is now a certified police officer, told Mr. Williams that they can't come back in, Mr. Williams, identified by this now officer, told the officer, if you don't back off, I'm going to shoot you in the face. At that time, the officer, or the security guard then, did back off. They have pictures.
If you don't back off, I'm going to shoot you in the face. It'd be different if someone just said, I'm going to shoot you in the face. There's a qualifier, if you don't back off, which could mean get away from my physical proximity. Don't come close enough to me to touch me where you could be a harm to me. If you don't back off, I'm going to shoot you in the face is very different than just I'm going to shoot you in the face.
On the scene of Mr. Williams and of the car. Your Honor, on
Hang tight. Ms. Amana? it may, it may be a situation, if everybody concerned, we booked the Zoom for the day, and the day ends at 5, so that's probably why it probably cut off. So let me just see if we can fix that. We may have to send out another link, so just bear with us a second.
Yes, Judge.
Still working?
Okay, actually, I think this was a decent recess. I think I time-stamped it so we can move forward a little bit. Right, is this 7:54? Yeah, they end up recessing for like half an hour here, and then the state starts calling their witnesses. Okay, I time-stamped it as 8:25 because there's a bunch of time them just moseying around. And speaking of this hoverboard incident with the mall, this was years and years ago. That man has already been called by the state to testify in the actual trial. I went and looked between this stream and the part 2 pretrial stream. It was day 9 that they called this witness. So if you ask me, when you have a long trial, you kind of want to bookend. And again, I'm not saying that the state is actually using strategy, but if they are trying to bookend, right? You want to open memorably, you want to close memorably, and you might want to put some of your not so important stuff, but stuff you need to get in the case, in the middle. I can't say that that's how the state's road mapping this, but in general, you put someone on the stand earlier on, day 9 out of day 140 plus, it might be something you really want the jury to hear and remember. And one of them is going to be this witness that's going to be called here, a security guard at a mall that several years ago said that Jefery Williams said, if you don't back off, I'm going to shoot you in the face. So that's the thread. That's the needle and the thread that we're weaving through a group text message with in my opinion, a general, not specific observation about soldiers falling. Then that 17-second video that we know existed before the date the state says it existed, or that it was made or posted. Technically, it was posted on that date, but the state seems to think it was created in relation to the Donovan Thomas killing, which can't be true if it already existed. And then someone was in fear of their life. Jefery Williams put them in fear of their life because he said, if you don't back off, I'm going to shoot you in the face. That's what we're working with here for this argument. Oh boy. Also, big shout out here. Nika said, and this is hilarious, this is a great picture, you guys. We need an emoji that is on Weinstein's X of the 3 attorneys standing in court that says, listening to Love's BS. I'm going to get that link so you guys can see what we're talking about, and I'll put it up on screen. I would love for that to be an emoji. However, I just don't think it would be visible. It'd be too much to fit 3 faces in like a little icon the size that it displays on devices. So I would love that. And maybe I can make it one of those things that we pop up on the screen. Maybe that's an alternative there, like how we do the duck, the squeaky duck. So as a workaround, I think that'll be the plan. So I'm going to pull that and clip that picture. It does look like an album cover. I totally agree. And thank you for the super chat, Nika. Angela Hornsby, good to see you, says, Kevin Lyle stepped down the day Diddy got arrested. Now, this might be technically true, but I do believe with such a high position of power, and they were already like record executives, there was a shifting of board members around this time anyway, and it seems like Lyles had an exit strategy. I believe that was in place before the Diddy arrest. Now, maybe that, maybe that played a role in some of the PR handling around it, but I don't think that this was a causal factor. So, but it is very interesting. It is very interesting to consider. Kevin Kirksey became a member. Thank you so much. And then Chloe also says, oh no, really? They dissed mall cops? I've seen purple-haired grandmas threaten mall cops. What the heck? Has Paul Blart recovered from that trauma? Shaking my head. No, and that's really, like, think about what Don Geary just laid out. And that's his job to lay it out. I saw someone in the chat say they were happier to listen to him doing it. I have the duck on the screen. Hold on. It's just hanging out there. But it was nicer that argument got out pretty clean and coherently and pretty concisely. And it's his job to lay that out. But when you really consider that they're taking a broad text message, the date of a posting that now the date is before this group text message and before the incident, the murder in question, and then also saying, oh, what's your proof that he puts people in fear of their lives to meet the Ayala factor to deny bond? You get a mall cop from an incident several years ago to say, he said, if you don't back off, I'm going to shoot you in the face. Doesn't really sound like what you should be able to call, witnesses you should be able to call and put on the stand for a RICO trial, for a bond hearing for the supposed gang leader, the one calling all the shots, for all of this horrible activity. But that's just me. That's just me. Oh boy. I'm going to look for that picture of the three attorneys. Okay, I didn't put it forward enough.
All right, Mr. Geary,
Okay,
you can
I was
go ahead
close.
and continue, sir, at this time.
Yes, Judge. And Judge, I believe I finished with Act 51, which is the terroristic threats against the security guards at the mall.
Yeah, you were talking about last one.
Yes, Judge. The next one is going to be Act 60 of the indictment, which is on 3/25/16. It is a music video entitled Slime Shit. And it talks about YSL shit, killing 12 shit, 12 being a euphemism for police officers. Fuck a jail shit. I'm a VIP and got a pistol on my hip. Again, and you know, I took what Mr. Lau said, and I don't disagree with him. If we have someone singing these kind of lyrics and isn't living this lifestyle before they sing about it, I don't think that's a crime. That's not the case here. We're basically singing lyrics about what they're doing. The fact that Mr. Lyles isn't aware of what his business partner is doing is the other issue. In that song, it goes, again, fuck the police, fuck the judge, mob life. On 9/24/17, Act 68, I believe 69, 70, 71, and 72, Your Honor. This is a act out of Brookhaven Police Department that Mr. Steele spoke of, where Mr. Kitchens and Mr. Williams were stopped in a car based on a traffic violation, and a stolen weapon was found in the vehicle, and methamphetamine with intent to distribute, hydrocodone with intent to distribute, marijuana with intent to distribute, and a criminal street gang charge arose from that. And the interesting thing on that is when the officer asked Mr. Williams' name, the response from Mr. Williams was, I'm a superstar, can't take me to jail. The officer did. I think Mr. Williams discovered there that that didn't work. Your Honor, in Act 73 on 12/30/17, Mr. Williams appeared in a video. It was called Original Slime Shit, with lyrics, murder gang shit, YSL 2, you're dead and pale. Act 74 is a music video on 4/12/18 where Mr. Williams states or sings, I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body. That would be our position, is that as the leader of this criminal street gang, Mr. Williams probably has never killed anybody. I don't know that to be true or not, but he probably has others do it for him, as we understand the evidence, Judge.
The presumption.
When was that Act 74 music video?
Which one, Judge? I'm sorry.
Act 74, you said.
Act 7.
And thank you, Factual Lie just posted the link to the Doug Weinstein picture in the chat there. So look for the purple F in the chat to find Factual Lie or the wrench. And there's the link there to this amazing picture of the three attorneys. Totally looks like an album cover. But I think it would just be too big to put in a channel emoji. We wouldn't be able to tell what it was.
74 was 4/12/18, Judge.
Okay.
And again, the way as we address it in our evidence, Judge, we essentially address that as a confession by a party opponent. In Act 75, Judge, which is another traffic event in DeKalb County, it's on 5/18/18. In prior songs, the defendant sings that he travels with snipers. He travels with a dangerous gang. You can't mess with his people. In this, it was a traffic stop. Two vehicles speeding down the road. Officer stopped them for speeding. Mr. Williams was driving the lead car in a Porsche. I do not believe any weapons or any drugs were found in that car. And Mr. Williams indicated to the officer that the people behind him worked for him. The people behind him stated that they worked for Mr. Williams. In that car were 4 individuals, some prior felons, and they were armed to the teeth to include a fully loaded 30-round mag with an AK-47. I do not believe Mr. Williams got any charge other than a traffic ticket at that time. Again, no weapons were found on him and no drugs were found on him. Your Honor, on Act 78 from 1/15/19, it's a video called Bad Boy. Now, understand at a point, Mr. Williams got into a beef, if you will, with another rapper by the name of Rayshawn Bennett, also known as YFN Lucci. At some point, Lucci's mother was shot at, and the song comes out with Bad Boy that says, let's see, you better watch the way you breathe around me, for that breath be your last, boy. Smith & Wesson 45 put a hole in his heart, better not play with me. Killers stay with me. I shot at his mommy, now he no longer mentioned me. Again, we believe that Mr. Williams doesn't sing about random theoretical acts. He sings about gang acts that he's a part of or his gang participates in. Following that, Your Honor, in the same year, Act 96 on 8/8/19, Mr. Williams posted on Instagram I guess a post, if you will. It said, ifn, or YFN, if ain't like what you do for your mother and your kids, I would have killed you. And that was tagging YFN Lucci. Now, I'll go back and I'll get to that later. But this year, a YSL member attempted to kill Mr. Rayshawn Bennett, aka YFN Lucci, at the Fulton County Jail. That's on video as well. And we can tie that to the gang, and I'll get to that later. Your Honor, on Act 97 from 9/16/19, Mr. Williams posted a video called Just How It Is. There were lyrics in that one as well.
What number is that, sir?
97, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
And it said, last N-word tried me, almost got popped at Lennox. Ask the cops, ask the detectives, they know all the business. Ask the cops and the detective all the jurisdictions. Gave the lawyer close to $2 million. He handles all the killings. Mob business. We know to kill the biggest cats of all the kittens. Also, it should be noted that it's alleged that Mr. Donovan Thomas was the head of the Inglewood family criminal street gang at the time. And irrespective of his position that he might have had in a gang or not in a gang, Mr. Thomas didn't deserve to get gunned down on the road in Atlanta. Position or Act 102 judge from 3/12/20. Mr. Jefery Williams is in a conversation with Mr. Huey, also a defendant in this indictment. Now, let me set this up, Judge. And you heard part of this last time, that there was the theft of a car by someone in the gang, Mr. Huey, and it belonged to I believe, the manager of Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams was upset to find out that it was, and he basically texted his folks to say, give it back. Okay? Now, in that...
Okay, so this is where we really need to hear, what does the state have to show that the initial carjacking was something done in furtherance of YSL? If Jefery Williams, once hearing who actually got carjacked, said, undo that. What's the bow that ties this together?
He responds to Mr. Huey, says, if he don't take it back, he gonna die. Followed that, Mr. Huey basically was begging for his life in the conversation. It's very clear that he believed that statement by Mr. Williams. In Act 127, Your Honor, from 2/4/21.
So that's it. That's the only rationalization we get, at least here, as to how Huey carjacking somebody, Thug finding out who was carjacked and saying, give that man his stuff back. And Huey saying, if he don't take it back, he gonna die. That's somehow supposed to support the theory that this was done in furtherance of the gang activity, YSL. and that it makes Jefery Williams a risk. Because remember, right now, this is all not to argue, it's a gang and we're trying to prove these charges. Right now, this is all to oppose the motion for bond.
Mr. Williams is in a conversation with other defendants listed on the indictment where he stated, YSL rule the world, kid. 24 million on an N-word's head. Y'all just start bringing me the money. Man, y'all stop playing with me. That was in reference to gang activity and basically
That was in reference to the little Uzi 24 karat gem in his head. Oh no. And yet we have this video called Homicide with someone that looks a lot like Donovan Thomas, and Threat is in the video, and they're putting a bounty cash right on the guy that looks like Donovan Thomas's head. But we don't have an indictment about that video. We don't have we don't have a predicate act about that video in this indictment. But we have Lil Uzi Vert's 24 karat embedded in the skin of his forehead or brow bone or whatever is in reference to gang activity.
Evidence that he is in charge and all the money goes to and flows through Mr. Williams. On Act 130 from 4/16/21, Judge, there's a social media post titled Slatty, S-L-A-T-T-Y, lyric stating, I killed this man in front of his mama, I guess sister and his cousin. I shoot out, kill him, not leave a trace.
Okay, those lyrics don't even make sense, because if you shoot someone in front of 3 other people, but you don't also take out those 3 other people, then you're not leaving a trace. So that to me sounds like dumb lyrics that tell a conflicting story rather than something that's actually realistic.
It says, you think you a gangster, you got a pistol, look at my triggers start itching. YSL, we going overboard. And again, YSL is a direct reference to Young Slime Life, the criminal street gang. On Act 131 on 4/16/21, there's a video released called Ski, S-K-I, with lyrics stating, I fuck with slats, slacks being basic slang life forever. We come to eat rats. I came with some piranhas. I tote an FN, a reference to a handgun. And in that one, which is interesting, Judge, which you'll hear in the evidence of this case, is this is a hybrid gang. This gang isn't pure bloods. There are rolling 60s in it, Crips. There are 30 deep. It is a combination of many different gangs to form this gang. In Act 132 from 5/13/21, Judge, a conversation where Williams asks the others in the conversation, y'all ain't beat him up or shot him yet? Y'all N-word getting soft. And I believe that's directing the activity of the gang to stand up for the reputation of the gang and not be disrespected. Your Honor, in Act 139, I'll miss 139, Judge. In Acts 150, Mr. Huey, which I spoke of earlier, had gotten out of jail. He had communicated with Mr. Williams, basically stating, and this is Mr. Huey, you know I'm ready to handle the business and go sit down if I got to about any one of y'all on my mama. Sit down is a reference by the gang, is I'm willing to go to prison for you, I'm willing to do time for you. In Act 155 from 12/31/2021,
What date is that? I'm sorry, one more time.
I apologize, Judge.
What date and
12/31/21, Judge.
and that's predicate act, right?
It's an overt act, Judge. There was a photo released by Mr. Williams with him wearing a YSL pendant with basically with taking his finger under his nose like this, Judge, which is a gang sign from YSL. That's one of their signs. When we watch the videos, you'll see that a lot, Judge. Judge, in Act 156 from 1/16/22, defendant released a video, and why we think this is important, Judge, is because the gang signs mostly done by Mr. Williams are YSL gang signs, Young Slime Life. They may argue that it's Young Stoner Life, but in this video, Mr. Williams flashed a Bloods sign, not a YSL sign, a Bloods gang sign. He's also got a photograph where he's got a red B right about here on his chest, Judge, which is a common Bloods tattoo. On 3/9/22 in Act 172, Williams posed for a photograph with the caption, "Slat Business YSL 4L for life." Judge, we have proffers that from gang members, and some on the indictment, some not, that Mr. Williams is the leader of the gang. He directs the gang activity. This gang, as you can see through the indictment, there are numerous murders, there are numerous armed robberies, there are numerous attempted murders, shootings. You know, just like, again, I spoke about the Gaudis, about the criminal gang, mafia families out of New York. The bosses themselves never got their hands dirty. The position here is, Judge, is Mr. Williams directs and has directed all of these individuals, Judge. And he recruits people continuously, Judge. We have a proffer, Judge, even from the mother of one of the defendants in this indictment, who told us that Mr. Williams does the community events in order to recruit more people, that her son was recruited by money, shoes, clothes, because they didn't have anything. And now her son's, by her statement, is in jail for the rest of his life. And that's that's the mother from one of the defendants on this case. Judge, Mr. Williams essentially is YSL. Everybody else is a follower. There are leaders. We said Mr. Kitchens, Mr. Greer, they are also leaders. But the leader, the top dog, the most dangerous man here is Jefery Williams, because he doesn't have to get his hands dirty. He has others to do his business. Judge, in an analogy, you found the others danger to the community, danger to commit additional felonies. And I would say, of the least of them, you found them dangerous. This is the most of them. This is the one that you see the shadow in the back of the room. He's the one directing traffic. He is the one they're all afraid of. He's the one that's king slime. He's pulling the shots. He is the most dangerous of the 28, Judge. And I implore you not to grant him a bond. He is dangerous. The setup they've given to you is actually going to be less control, not more. If he gets a burner, Judge, and the court may know this, a lot of the communications that Mr. Williams is on FaceTime, because it's not traceable, it's not trackable. And we know that to be their MO. He gets a burner, he gets in there, he runs his gang from inside, and he won't get that, and no one's going to throw his cell. I know what the investigator said, with all due respect. That's not the jail. That's their job. It's not the job of 24 officers being paid by Mr. Williams. That's not their job. The job is the sheriff of Fulton County or any other sheriff where our sheriff decides to put Mr. Williams. That's their job. He is dangerous. And I normally don't do this, but I don't hesitate in this case. Respectfully, Judge, I believe if you give him a bond, we're going to have more witnesses in danger or going to be missing. I believe he's that dangerous, Judge. Thank you.
I think his presentation is, you know, way more impressive than trying to follow what we're seeing from the current prosecutor. So, I do think, especially watching this in retrospect, there's obviously some holes in the storyline he's putting together. But the point is, he created a storyline. He gave something that, if you take it at face value, supports itself, helps corroborate the last thing he said as being nefarious or inculpatory or going to show that Jefery Williams is a danger to society, a danger specifically to witnesses that are needed for this trial, right? So I think he did his job, even though I don't agree that the things he's presenting are actually true, right? I still think he put them together in a easy to follow order, which is not something we're used to seeing in present day. Also, this was a little bit earlier, so I don't want to let it go too far away. Zion42 had said, people change/grow up. Keeping it all relevant is subjective over formable development time in young people's lives. I agree, and that's why I really think it was compelling when Fani Willis platformed on this pre-indictment diversion program. Now, pre-indictment diversion can prevent you from getting a record for something that maybe you didn't really do, and the preliminary evidence, we find a different lead and realize, oh, never should have actually charged you in the first place. Oopsie. Additionally, something that's like, you know, maybe you shoplift or whatever, and you've never been caught before. Do we really want to make you have a criminal record? Maybe you're shoplifting just because you have $0 and need something in the short term. Well, if we give you a record and now it's even harder for you to get a job and get income, we're putting you in a position where you're probably more likely to reoffend, right? So we'll weigh the options, and we'll divert it. We'll make sure that we don't prevent people from being able to change if they try and want to change. I think this pre-indictment diversion program is something that sounds really great, and then we have this huge backlog of people sitting that haven't been indicted. It kind of just feels like the effort fell flat, especially when Amanda Timpson, who was actually getting through that backlog, is kind of cut out for being a whistleblower at the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. So I totally agree with the sentiment, Zion. I do understand with crimes of certain magnitude, you know, I understand why there's no statute of limitations, or it might not matter if you've technically changed. That still might not be justice for the victim. But some of the things they're tacking on here are like, someone wanted to look impressive on a social media post, and we're saying that that activity is now criminal. We're saying that if someone uses FaceTime, the intent is nefarious. When it's just a popular thing to use FaceTime. People ask me all the time, do you have FaceTime? No, I have an Android phone, I'm sorry. Like, so to hear this argument that FaceTime, it's like the theory that people want to go on Minecraft and speak in code on Minecraft about terroristic behavior because it's not going to be tracked back to them, they think. I feel like that story about the Minecraft communications came about around the same time and got implanted in Don Gary's head, and he's like, FaceTime must be the same way. So I don't know. I think he presented a great argument for what he's got to work with, even though we know that the pieces he's using have been kind of, in part, dismantled. So Ike says 1 month. Yeah, you've been a member for a month, but it's really 2 because you took a nap. Well, hope you're here for many more, and I hope you can, sometimes I know people can ride the wave of just getting gifted memberships, and this membership timeline keeps growing. And eventually they're like, I've still never actually had to buy a membership. So hopefully to all you greens in the chat, you can keep it going. With the help of someone like Stephen T. Satchel, who's out here gifting memberships. Thank you so much again, Stephen. Oh, and is Ike heading out right as I said that? See ya, Ike. And to be fair, that wasn't supposed to be a video gamer reference. Like, Minecraft was really used for chat communications. I forget for what. That's slipping my mind because sometimes I get, like, brain fog when I'm on the stream. I just, like, can't think in an instant. And I do love video games. Not really a Minecraft person, but that was really a thing. So, let's see. I think the first witness we get is, I don't want to say Paul Blart, but the mall cop.
Court permission, if I may offer rebuttal. Just a few closing statements too.
All right, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Judge.
Wait, do we not call any more witnesses? Okay, I was totally wrong. You know what I think I did? So a lot of the time I look through transcripts and search, and I think I saw a search in this transcript relating to the hoverboard, because hoverboard was the word I was searching for. So I just assumed we were getting testimony, so that's my mistake. But that same hoverboard mall security guard witness does testify day 9 of the actual trial, and we can watch that on a different stream. So my bad, I think we don't actually get him called at the bond hearing. We just get him mentioned, his story discussed.
Thank you. There's a lot that I want to say to the court. I'm going to finish my argument by referring to exactly what we're supposed to be doing here, which is talking about the law briefly. And I won't take too long because I know Mr. Steele has done an excellent job thus far of presenting what the court
Hey,
needs
Drea.
to have in front of it in terms of considering suitability of bond. But I want to start where the prosecution left off and talk to the court briefly about why it's so dangerous to have the state make a presentation in a manner that it did. This statement, and this is kind of emblematic of the entirety of the state's argument. If you give Mr. Williams a bond, that I'm afraid there are going to be more witnesses who are in danger, or more witnesses who are threatened, or something to that nature, right? And the thing that's so disingenuous about that statement is that just about 10 minutes or 15 minutes into, in the prior argument, Mr. Gary conceded that there is no evidence, there is zero evidence that there are any threats being made that can be tied in any form or fashion to Mr. Williams.
Well, I think that's not the statement. I think he said as well that there were proffers from other gang members that he's the leader of the gang, he's dangerous, we cross him, and he'll kill them or kill the family. So there is something the court has heard thus far.
If we're breaking it down, Judge, what Mr. Gary was talking about in that regard is what I presume he believes will be evidence in the case. Now, in talking about the bond, in talking about whether or not there is any evidence before the court, right? And there was this discussion earlier.
Well, that's a proffer. I mean, I take you all in your word for it, Mr. Adams. I mean, it's a proffer. I mean, it goes to the state's contention of whether or not he's a danger to the community. One of the things I have to look at in one factor. So, whether or not I take it as its value, certainly is dependent upon what I in terms of weighting the situation, weighing what's been proffered thus far.
And I understand that. What I would ask the court to pay close attention to and to keep in mind is that allegations put forth by the state in regards to what they say is evidence that is going to be forthcoming are exactly that, allegations that have not been vetted, that may or may not be accurate, that will come before this court, presumably during the course of a trial. But for purposes of the bond, and for purposes of whether or not Mr. Williams, if given a bond, is going to return to court to face process of the court, to face these charges, whether or not there's evidence that goes to his guilt or innocence, whether he is guilty or not guilty of these charges, is not what is before the court. So
You're absolutely right. You don't have to waste your breath on that.
Right.
I'm very familiar with Mr. Williams and the other co-accused, presumption of innocence, and the court deems them as being innocent of these charges. I'm asked to pass on bond, and the bond is predicated on, on the issues that the appellate case law tells me I need to kind of consider. So
let me then address some specific things that Mr. Gary said, that the state said in their argument.
All right.
The state started their argument by saying that this is all about money. And to be quite honest, that's a little bit of, that's a little insulting, because the inference is that if Mr. Williams has means or has resources, that that's a bad thing, that he is trying, in their words, to, quote, I can buy a bond, is what the state said. They said he wants to, quote, pay his way out of jail, is what they said.
Well, I think that they're saying it's a fact. Is resources of the accused in this particular circumstance, but it has to be taken into context with other things. So I'm not saying that. I understand their assertion in that regard, but it's more so the court's going to consider it from an issue of its context of other things.
Yes, sir. And one of the things
and well, being able to, you can make bond. I mean, so I understand that.
And that's precisely the point. The fact that Mr. Williams may have means or may have resources by which that can be brought to bear. Those resources are being brought to bear for purposes of assuring the court of his reappearance. Because the other way, of course, to look at it, as you've heard from some of the witnesses, is that there's a lot at stake. That if he does not reappear in court, that there are financial resources, there are people's well-being that are put at financial stake because of that. And that is certainly something the court can consider in regards to whether or not he would reappear. Now, what I also think is an inappropriate argument is that the witnesses who took their time to come in here and testify about their knowledge of Mr. Williams, about his background, about what he's done, about his ties to the community, about his investments in the community and so forth, and his employment, his financial status, his jobs, they took their time and came in and testified. I would submit to the court honestly about their knowledge to you about Mr. Williams. I do not believe that there's anything to suggest that anyone who came in here and testified came in because of a financial motive, that they have something to gain or something to lose financially by coming in here and speaking honestly to the court about their knowledge of Mr. Williams, which is what the court needs to make its decision.
I'm taking it from the standpoint of he has significant ties to the community.
And that is, thank you, Judge, and that is exactly what I would suggest that information was. That is what was presented to you, that he has strong ties to the community that weighs in his benefit if he, as the court considers, bond. Now, the one of the things that the state referenced, that the state asked you to consider, was whether or not he is a flight risk. And I want to roll this into a discussion of the bond hearing that was held before Magistrate Judge Wolf some weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm going to mark that as court 2 for purpose of the motion. That was done on the 11th of May and filed into our e-file system, or Odyssey, I should say. So I'll make that part of the record.
Yes, sir. That was on a Wednesday. I was present for that bond hearing. I was there, and I can tell the court that that would have been 2 days after Mr. Williams was originally arrested. He came for a first appearance. I'll tell you that the court, Magistrate Judge Wolf, heard argument from both sides as to suitability of bond. And I will tell you as an officer of the court that Magistrate Judge Wolf was concerned about the fact that the indicted case was already assigned to you. That there was someone that Mr. Williams was already assigned to on a separate case, a separate but related case. And there were discussions about whether or not, because he had resources, he was a flight risk. Because he had money, he had the ability and the wherewithal to leave. And Judge Wolf, I will tell you, in denying the bond, which he did, essentially indicated that he asked me very many questions about whether or not there was a bond hearing scheduled in front of Your Honor, and whether or not you'd be considering the issue of bond on the indicted case, and that he would defer, that he was going to deny bond at the time, but he was going to defer to Your Honor because the other case was in front of you and because that case was related. And so it is my impression from the hearing on that day and the denial of bond that the court anticipated that you would be making the larger decision as regards whether or not Mr. Williams receives bond on both matters or not. And of course, both matters are in front of you now. Now, there is, in regards to flight risk, whether or not he's a flight risk, and some of what the state has said, there is no indication that he's a flight risk. Mr. Gary referenced a failure to appear, and yet conceded that he doesn't know anything about that failure to
It's
appear.
for a traffic offense. It's of diminished value to the court, but I'm more interested in the access to the private jet.
Yeah, well,
At PDK in the gap.
and so that's the thing, because our suggestion to the court is that he be placed on house arrest, that he have an ankle monitor, that there are post-certified law enforcement officers who are responsible for making sure he complies with the court's conditions. There is no suggestion on our part that he be allowed to fly by way of private jet, commercial jet, helicopter, or anything of that nature. And so the argument that because he has resources, he has in the past has had access to a private jet, that is something the court should be concerned about. We would suggest to you that is not something for you to consider, because we're not asking that he be allowed to have that access. You heard from Mr. Middlestadt, who indicated that what would happen essentially is if the court were to graciously grant bond for Mr. Williams, he would be released from where he is now. He will be transported by law enforcement officers to the location that the court has indicated, and he will stay there. And if he is to leave to come to court, for the only reason that he would do so under supervision and under guard of law enforcement officers. And when Mr. Middlestadt testified, I think he was clear, and he was deferential to the court in regards to what the requirements would be. These are going to be post-certified law enforcement officers who are sworn to uphold the law. We did not suggest that private security, just any individual off of the street, serve as the people who would guard the house where Mr. Williams would be confined. As a matter of fact, the list of those individuals was provided to the court. They can be vetted. We have indicated and we have suggested to the court that the DA's office can vet them if they want to. They can go to the home. And quite frankly, circling back around to this private jet issue, let me tell you, Mr. Williams doesn't own a jet, has never owned a private plane or a private jet. And he would not even have access to that because we're suggesting that the court not allow that. It is of some particular note that at the time that Mr. Williams was arrested, when the police came to the house, there were SWAT team officials and plainclothes officers who came to the house. We've seen the video. There were individuals approaching the house from different locations with guns, and the state made reference to the fact that one of the individuals tried to run. It wasn't Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams never tried to leave. He never tried to run. He didn't abscond. He didn't try to fight the officers. He went with them. And so there's no indication that he was a danger to flee. In fact, he had just gotten back into town the day before, and you have heard that the only other time when there was a warrant that was issued for Mr. Williams' arrest, he left a tour, left Las Vegas, left those resources, came right back to the cab, turned himself into custody. And so everything that you've heard, all of the evidence the facts that you heard would speak against him being a flight risk. He is not, and there is no, they've not presented any evidence that he's a flight risk. An argument in and of itself that he is not sufficient for the court. Is there any danger that he would threaten or intimidate witnesses? We've discussed that a bit. There was some discussion in another bond hearing previously, and I'm wary about trying to make comparisons or make reference to bond hearings regarding any other individuals, because Mr. Williams deserves to have his bond considered simply based upon the factors involving him, characteristics involving him, his suitability for bond, not anybody else. But this talk that we heard previously about people with phones in jails, or people making phone calls, or there are witnesses who are terrified right now, other than the state purporting to have other quote unquote, what they say are gang members, or someone's mother who's saying that there are threats being made, that there has been no evidence other than that assertion, that allegation presented to the court. He's been locked up since the 9th. They have access to his phone calls. They're recorded. They have access to, I mean, he's locked up 22 hours out of the day, sometimes 23, but you've not heard any indication here that, well, he made a recorded phone call and there was something that he said in that phone call that we perceive as a threat, or he's contacted someone and he has asked them to do something that we believe is commensurate with intimidating a witness or trying to influence a witness. You've not heard any evidence of that. And so there's simply no evidence to substantiate their allegation that he would be a threat to intimidate witnesses. Now, moving specifically to the indictment. And I heard you say it before, and I accept when the court says, Mr. Adams, I know that guilt or innocence is not the province of a bond hearing, and thank you for that. But they spent a good bit of time going through the indictment, but what they actually did is they simply read their allegations. These are their allegations, all right? These are what they say Mr. Williams did, or what they believe Mr. Williams, offenses they believe he's committed. They have to prove that, and there is nothing to suggest that simply because they have sat down and drafted up an 88-page indictment that the allegations in this indictment are accurate or are true. I've been doing this for a long time, and there have been times, many times, when the allegations put forth by the state have simply not been borne out in trial. So the state can stand up here and sound as certain as they want to that, hey, we think the evidence is going to, or we know that the evidence is going to show X, Y, Z. And then when months later, after the court has considered that in regards to whether he gets a bond, when we're actually standing up in the courtroom, they don't prove it, or it turns out not to be true, or a witness that they say is going to say something, says something different, or is impeached, or someone is proven to not be telling the truth. And so to stand here and say, well, there's a song lyric that we believe is relevant in the case, and they're talking about a particular incident, is trying to convince the court that their allegations are true, trying to convince the court that their allegations are factual, and there's nothing to say that that is the case at this point. In Mr. Jefery, the prosecutor, asked the court to look at several acts in the indictment. Started with Act 9. And the prosecutor, I noticed, read or paraphrased some words in Act 9. All I ever wanted was the money. And then moved on to put him in a wheelchair, taking it totally out of context. This is a song. And the dangerous thing about where we are with them believing that they can pick and choose song lyrics or portions of song lyrics is that they don't know what they're talking about, but they're putting it in here as though it's fact. They could not tell you, I guarantee, who wrote the song, who was actually singing a particular lyric in this song, or what the song is referencing. And that's what's dangerous. And I know at some point we're going to be arguing about whether these song lyrics go to anything specific in the indictment. But Judge, I would just ask you to take a look at what's been proffered, or what's been presented to you. Act 9. Read just like Elmo, but I never effing giggle. Well, what does that mean? You know, what does the next line mean? You know, what is that? Is that referencing something specific, a specific count of the indictment? They can't tell you that. And it's taken out of context. You know, last week when we had a bond hearing, Bob Rubin, who represented one of the other individuals, said something that I thought, as a 56-year-old person who grew up in Brooklyn with rap music and all of that, thought was particularly insightful. He said, Judge, you know, it seems kind of bizarre, you know, some 50-something-year-old white guy is trying to tell you what, you know, someone who's a rapper means in a particular song. And I don't mean to suggest that that some people have greater sensibilities about rap music than others. All right, but what I am suggesting is that it is somewhat disingenuous to simply quote portions of song lyrics when you don't really know what they are, and to take them out of context, and to not know who wrote the song or who's actually singing the song. Because I can tell you, I've poured through this indictment, and I know for a fact that there are some of these lyrics that are quoted or attributed to Jefery Williams that were not written by him, and they were not sung by him. But when do we find that out? In the middle of trial? After they've stood up here and tried to convince you that you ought to use these lyrics as incendiary as they sound to deny him bond, and then 8, 9, 10 months later, oh, that wasn't Jefery Williams. And that's why it's so dangerous to have the state. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. I was going to, but I'm not going to because I'm mindful of the time. But I think the court gets my point that to quote song lyrics and Instagram posts or group chats or group texts that we, by the way, contest in several of them is not Jefery Williams, and that he did not say that and did not say those things. And there's no greater force to them standing up here and saying that he said those things than us saying he didn't. It's on equal footing, and it shouldn't be considered because it's just something that has to be proven later on. In Act, I thought this was funny. Act 74, I think it is, the state reference. Act 74. Now that one I thought was particularly interesting and is, I think, symptomatic of what is flawed about the state's argument as to why you should consider everything they've read to you or presented to you in the indictment. Act 74 references Jefery Williams releasing a video. They said it was released on 4/12/18. I'm going to suggest that at some point in the future they'll go back and they'll correct that, and they'll recognize that this was a song, Anybody, that was written by Jefery Williams, Nicki Minaj, and a third writer. And that some of the lyrics that are in here are actually lyrics that were sung by Nicki Minaj. But they don't know that. They don't know that, but they stand up here and say this with the force of authority, thinking that that's going to be, and they make that a central part of their argument. What did they say? They said, the song lyrics say, I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body. And that, Judge, is exactly where we're telling you that Jefery Williams, no, he may not have ever killed anybody that we know of, but he's the man in control, he's King Slime, he's the one who's running everything, and he's confessing it by saying that in this song. I told him to shoot 100 rounds. They left out the other line that comes after that. Like they're trying to movie a body. Like they shoot a movie. I mean, it's laughable, but it's an issue for later on down the road. Judge, in regards to the court's consideration, 4 things in 5. If you have everything in front of you, Judge, that the court needs to make a determination about whether Mr. Williams is suitable for bond. I would contend respectfully that he is. There are no greater set of assurances that any defendant can put in front of you that can give you some assurance that he will reappear for trial than we have done. We have given the court every possible option I would suggest to you, and we have offered up the ability to have the court have its say in everything in terms of which of his residences, what house he lives in. Right? The court and the DA can have access to video feed from the house, so they can see what's going on in the house while he's there. That these law enforcement officers who will be properly vetted, who have been properly vetted, who will be there and will be responsive not to Mr. Williams, not because it's being paid for by Mr. Williams, but because they're responsive to the court, and will have reports that are submitted to the court or to the DA's office. So we've put that in front of you, Judge. We're asking you to take that assurance and give it significant consideration, not because he's able to pay for it, but because it's going to accomplish what you need for it to accomplish to show you that he'll show back up. We have suggested and we have put before you the option of he needs to work, but having a studio built at his residence where and inspected by law enforcement to ensure that there's nothing untoward going on there, so he can do what he does. That's his job. We have suggested to the court that, not suggested, we're happy to surrender his passport, even though an issue, he's not leaving the house, but we'll surrender it anyway. We have suggested that his calls can be monitored. And so any device that's used to make any phone calls can be monitored. And so whoever he talks to, whatever he says to them, will be known. Anyone who comes to the house has to be clear and will be known. But the court will have to approve a list of individuals who can come to the house. There is, in short, nothing more that we or any defendant can give to the court to satisfy what the court would have in front of it to ensure that he returns to court. Mr. Williams has not been convicted of anything before, and he stands before this court with some very serious allegations, but we're ready. We're going to be ready. We'll be ready to address them at the appropriate time. But we ask that you consider, respectfully, granting him a bond that allows him to be free from that custody, yet still confined under the court's order, to allow us an opportunity to properly prepare for this trial. We think it's appropriate, Judge. A bond is appropriate. Whatever you believe is an appropriate amount of bond with all of the conditions that we've put in place, or we've suggested to the court, or whatever else the court wants to add. But we believe that we have done everything that any defendant could possibly do to show the court that bond is appropriate. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Adams, thank you.
Any rebuttal? I don't know if they actually get that.
I'm going to defer ruling for just a second. You want to take care of Mr. Sharp, and I can, at this point in time?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay, all right. Mr. Sharp, you want to go ahead and present your issues as to bond, sir?
Excuse me, Your Honor. May I use the restroom? I need to be here. I've been holding it for a long time.
It's not funny. Y'all be at ease. Yes, sir. In fact, I'll just take 5 minutes and you can go ahead. Everybody can. You come back, okay? All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to recess in place just for a minute. Okay? All right.
All right, so we're going to fast forward to see Shart's argument because Judge is going to defer his ruling. We obviously know that bond was not granted. Spoiler alert. But Shart's going to make his arguments. And remember, yes, they're all being tried together, but in a way, you have to argue those same factors for your individual client, just like the state will have to rebut those arguments in terms of that individual client. Where's abundance and clarity? You guys, if you're listening and didn't see on the screen, it is Abundance and Clarity's birthday, so send some birthday wishes to Abundance and Clarity. Always special to have a good birthday. I saw you guys doing the slime champagne again, which I love. It's going to be a great channel emoji to have. And anything else we got going on here? Just want to make sure. Sometimes when we have one birthday mention, sometimes we get a second birthday. So I just want to make sure. So all birthday attention is going to Abundance and Clarity. And also, kind of in the celebratory line here, don't forget we have Club Classy tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's over on Classy Beach channel. Come hang out. Drop a link there. And... or Blub Blassie. So here is the link to Club Classy. Which I'm sure as soon as I look at the screen, Steph may have beaten me to it. Yep, she sure did. She sure did. So there we go. We will do a VIP booth celebrating Abundance and Clarity tonight at Club Classy. It's going to be a good time. And let's see, let's try to cue this up. Look for Shart near the podium. Getting ready here. Oh, the judge isn't back. All right, so here comes the
Please be
judge.
seated, everybody. I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Shard, sorry for the delay. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, Your Honor, based on some information that I've learned about today, I'm going to ask if Your Honor would permit me to withdraw the bond motion for the time being, and allow me to refile should circumstances change. There's some things I need to talk to my client about, and I think that would be in the best interest of Mr. Jackson at this moment.
Does he go by Mr. Jackson or Stillwell? Either one?
He goes by Mr. Jackson,
Okay.
but he is also Mr. Stillwell in the indictment.
Okay, all right. Mr. Stillwell, your counsel here is going to withdraw your bond motion for the time being. He'll just talk with you a little bit later, if he hasn't done so already, about the about refiling it or potentially taking some other steps. Okay. All right. So, sir, you can be excused at this point in time. So I appreciate your patience. Yeah.
Can we arraign him? I'm sorry.
Yes. Mr. Before you go, though, hold on, sir. Mr. Stillwell, hold on. Before you go, Mr. Char, would you like to otherwise have the court waive formal arraignment, have the court enter a plea of not guilty on behalf of your client, and for you to have at least 60 days from the date of received discovery to file any motions?
All those things are my intention. We do wish, would you like me to restate them, Judge, for the record? What you just said?
Yes, the way
We do
waive formal arraignment.
We do waive formal arraignment. We wish to plead not guilty, and we would ask for 60 days, at least 60 days from the receipt of discovery in this case to file motions.
Granted.
Thank
and
you.
I will go ahead and, as I said earlier, on the 18th of August at 9 a.m., we will have a proffer session, waiver session on the record for the various individuals that we indicated earlier, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, all right. And Ms. Sherrill, I will set your client's trial for 9 January of 2023?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I think it's just housekeeping for the rest of this. But we'll make sure. Like setting dates and whatnot, which is kind of irrelevant now. We don't need to know what date they come back. We'll just be able to go to the next stream.
All right, folks, before I go ahead and get started, whatever decision is today, this is a forum, a public forum, which all are welcome. However, if you feel that you cannot govern your behavior or have acceptable conduct, please, you can exit the courtroom and nobody will be the wiser. If you make any outbursts or statements or anything that the law enforcement professionals in this courtroom deem to be inappropriate, you will be removed from the courtroom and maybe subject to other action. So I just tell you that up front because my deputies are charged with the responsibility of good order and discipline. So whatever my decision is, like it or not, I'll give you an explanation for it, but outbursts were not acceptable, okay? All right, so with that, counsels, I've gone ahead and based upon what has been proffered and the appellate, the case law, I should say, has been provided to the court, I'll summarize a couple of different things already that you as counsel for the state as well as for the defense, I'm sure aware of. I'm looking at Coleman versus the state, and that's already been cited. That's 361 Georgia Appeals 901. And I'll quote from that decision, which comes from our Court of Appeals, Judge Miller, Miller, the presiding judge in that particular case. Excessive bail is prohibited by the Georgia Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 17, and the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And for the 8th Amendment analysis, as you all are aware, that 8th Amendment violation would be excessive bail or no bail, or fixing an amount that is excessive under the circumstances. When fixing, for the purposes of the 8th Amendment, the excessive bail is defined as bail set at an amount higher than the amount reasonably calculated to ensure the presence of the defendant. When fixing bail in Georgia, trial judge's foremost consideration is the probability the accused, if free, will appear at trial. And then the court in Coleman goes on to quote that lesser factors or lesser extent or considerations are the accused's ability to pay, the seriousness of the offense, the accused's character and reputation. I've heard a lot of evidence today about those particular factors in regards to Mr. Williams and his ability to pay and the seriousness of the offenses and his character and reputation from presented by Mr. Steele, Ms. Hornsby, as well as Mr. Adams. So I have considered those particular issues. Now also, Coleman goes on to say that a defendant who seeks release on bail has the burden of showing roots in the community. The defendant does not pose a significant risk of fleeing, threatening the community, committing another crime, or intimidating witnesses. And along with this particular case, the court also has considered the seminal case of Ayala versus the state at 262 Georgia 704. And Ayala gives us the framework in Georgia for the purpose of a pretrial bond is to prevent punishment before conviction and secure the appearance of a person for trial, quoting Roberts versus the state, 32 Georgia Appeals 339. And it goes on to say that a trial court may release a person on bail if the court finds the following. So I have to look at the first thing that Coleman directs me to look at is consideration of whether or not the
I know some stuff is important to like state your reasoning and go step by step, that you're addressing each of the prongs necessary to make your ruling. But it's like, sometimes it just seems like he's reciting stuff he doesn't need to be reciting.
Is the foremost consideration is, will he, if free, appear at trial? And then the lesser factors, and these are: a court may release a person on bail if the court finds 1, poses no significant risk of fleeing from the jurisdiction or failing to appear in the court when required; 2, poses no significant threat or danger to any person, to the community, or property in the community; 3, poses no significant risk of committing any felony pending trial; and poses no significant risk of intimidating witnesses or otherwise obstructing the administration of justice. And I'm required to explain any reasons if I deny bond to assist the appellate court in its review, and that the granting or denial of bond will not be set aside unless there's a manifest and flagrant abuse of discretion. That's Jernigan versus the state, 111 Georgia 307, pinpoint 308, very old case from 1903. Now, in regards to considering bond for Mr. Williams, I have considered, the first consideration is, if free, will he appear at trial, and to a lesser extent, the other factors. And based upon the court's consideration of the proffer, the two things that the court has significant concerns about are him being a danger to the community and flight. And I'll state for the purposes of the record and purposes of my decision that I realize that Mr. Williams is presumed innocent. I realize that he has the presumption of innocence stays with him until the state, by sufficient evidence, is able to prove to a jury's satisfaction beyond reasonable doubt, I should say, that he is guilty of the offense or offenses charged. But however, in this particular circumstance, there have been significant proffers about Mr. Williams being a danger to the community. In particular, the state's proffer that they have taken proffers from other gang members and people who are in this particular indictment and they're not in this indictment, that he is the leader of the gang, he is dangerous, and if he crosses them, he'll kill them or their families. And the predicate or the review of the state, the concerns that I have are some of the statements that he's made about the threats and to others, and that have been chronicled in particular in some of the predicate acts that have been stated for the court's consideration. Whether or not those acts, as Mr. Adams has pointed out, because they have to be proven at trial, is a discussion for another day. But at this point in time, in the aggregate, those particular discussions, in particular, the proffer from the people that the state has talked to already, the group chat that from 2015 starting, anybody goes into a courtroom and tells the honest truth, they'll be fucking killed, pardon me for the language, and this threat is still being talked about. So that is of a concern to the court in regards to the danger to or threats to persons in the community. So and factors poses no significant risk of intimidating witnesses or otherwise obstructing the administration of justice. That is the court's concern. The two major concerns that this court has is danger to persons and threats to intimidate other witnesses and obstruct the administration of justice. So I have some concerns about the flight that I share with Judge Wolf also indicated, but and I'm not going to hold it against him that he is very successful and has significant means. But those two factors in particular, threats to persons in the community or pose a significant risk of intimidation of witnesses and otherwise obstructing the administration of justice, the court has considered a number of the predicate statements, and for those reasons in the aggregate, I'm going to deny bond at this time. But Mr. Adams, Ms. Hornsby, and Mr. Steele, certainly if you should file any other additional motions or things change, I certainly will reconsider the court's position on bond. It is not lost on me that I have not given your client a bond, but that is my decision based upon what I've heard, and I certainly appreciate your advocacy on behalf of your client, all of the lawyers thus far who have advocated very well for their clients in this particular position, and I will do my level best to make sure that this case gets tried as expeditiously as possible, and if I can get it on the calendar before the 9th of January, I will endeavor to do so. So, anything else at this point in time?
One thing, Judge.
Yes.
So I know the court sent an email to, I think, the Public Defender's Office concerning getting defendants who are presently unrepresented representation. We wanted to kind of weigh in on that. We filed a motion today requesting the court to respectfully get them so we can get everybody arraigned and get it moved. I want to just get the
Mr. Gary, you must think that I have a lot of power. I really don't. But in all seriousness, I've heard from Ms. Jean Bernard, and she right now is working on getting people assigned.
I just want the court tells me.
Why are we buffering? Why are we
And
both?
copies, I'm trying to provide copies.
Yeah, we certainly, if you said you've given copies to
They've been served, yes.
Okay, all right.
Electronically.
If you'll give those to Mr. Kearns right here, so I think Mr. Chamberlain's gone. But we are inherent, the court is inherently sensitive as to that issue. And as soon as those attorneys can be appointed, and I have some correspondence from Ms. Bernard saying that they are working on that issue right now, and that we will certainly get those people brought over as soon as possible. But and if you all have any other information in regards to that, please let us know. But we are tracking that issue, and I will continue to talk and dialogue with Mr. Chamberlain about that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else, folks?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your patience today, folks. Unless you have anything else, we'll be in recess for the time being. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Alright, so then they recess. And again, this is June 2022. He says, I'm going to try to get this moving. I'm going to try to get this done expeditiously. We're going to see if we can move this earlier than a January start date for trial. Even though we saw last minute, like December, 27th, 28th, the state starts dumping plea deals on a bunch of the others that were indicted. Speaking of witness intimidation, what about Miss Bennett? You have one of your detectives harassing a witness. She was afraid to come to court, in her words, because of this detective. And the court should take those words seriously. But the court wanted to hold her in contempt at the state's request. We have everything with the material witness warrant for GdThgYrPretty, and we heard some portion of that phone call with one of the investigators and GdThgYrPretty's dad kind of going at it. All of that's okay. All of that's okay. So it's just interesting, right? The main issue that Glanville cites is, risk of safety or risk of intimidation of witnesses. But what have we seen play out throughout this trial when we flip the roles with no reprimand? So very interesting. Just very, very interesting to see this stuff in retrospect. So that was the end of the first bond hearing. There is, and I can drop a playlist if you guys want to check out any of this content on your own in the meantime. I tried to go through and sift through the pretrial stuff because it's kind of a pain in the butt to go back and find. Even if you try to use dates in a search term on YouTube, YouTube doesn't really give you a search filter. You can go to Google and kind of work around that a little bit, but YouTube kind of lets you choose in the last year or in the last 2 weeks. Doesn't really let you focus in on something from 2022. So this right here in the chat is a playlist if you guys want to check out more pretrial content. I will continue to do these streams doing the rewinds on it, but just in case you want to fill your time. What else do we got? Today I wanted to redirect to Excited Utterance or Hella. She was supposed to be doing the Sarah Boone trial coverage. However, they aren't streaming jury selection, and then court was delayed until next week anyway because of hurricane preparations, since Sarah Boone is in Orlando. So I don't really have that as a 6 p.m. I do know that later tonight we have Club Classy, of course. So that's going to be around 8. And personally, me guys, I'm going, and I watch this stuff even when it's not coming in my direction anyway, but I love watching like storm chaser stuff. So I'm probably going to just be hanging out in some random like weather channel watching this Milton stuff because definitely an interesting storm. Little curveball there. I see Drea in the chat is going to get some rain looking like from Kirk in the next few days as well. So I'm sure if you're looking for something to do right now and are interested in weather stuff, one of those live YouTube channels that does storm tracking, probably a good time. Anything else you guys want to recommend for where to go hang out? Is Ryan Hall live? I didn't see him live before we started, but that was obviously like 3 hours ago. I don't see him live at this time. Huge channel though. You guys, if you haven't watched Ryan Hall, y'all, that's the channel there. RA is live. Hold on. Who's RA? My bad. My bad. I need the specificity there. I might feel stupid when you say it and spell it out for me. But yeah, I mean, it's just rapidly intensifying. I mean, we're trying to figure out how to board up our back balcony right now. The one you guys always hear me say the screen blows out. So we're going to try to board that up. Recovery addict. Okay. Yeah, I do feel dumb not catching that one. Recovery addict. Are they doing Sarah Boone stuff? Melody Walker Ferris. Is that the husband burning one? Oh, okay. So a little bit of a trigger warning on this case. I believe this is the husband burning trial, right? Which I think can be a little bit triggering to think. Honestly, Sarah Boone, same thing. I mean, that's someone unaliving because they couldn't breathe because they were stuck in a suitcase, which that's extremely scary to think about. And it looks like they might be doing opening statements and wherever they're at in trial. So other than that, Flesh of the Gods, hey, are you doing a stream? I could pull up your channel. If you are, I'm sure it won't be till later, so it won't help us right now, but you know, whatever. Let's see. Sorry, I have the type of keyboard I have is a loud, responsive keyboard. It's not my quiet keyboard, so I'm sorry if you guys can hear me like chomping away at the keyboard over there. That ill kid Jay says, I'll go live right now. Do it. Okay, nothing scheduled for Flesh of the Gods, but tons of YSL content to fill your time. And you know what I should share? The Nick Starro video, the 15-minute one, 16-minute. Definitely check this out. That's really all I've got, you guys. I don't see anyone. And I think it's because I was looking at weather stuff. Like when I refresh my own YouTube feed, right now everything that's coming up is just recommending weather channels and local news stations doing a weather report. So not really anything fun to direct you on a trip to. Unless if you guys want to spill over. I don't know, can I direct? I don't know if I can redirect to Recovery Addict. And it's possible, I should be clear, it's possible Excited Utterance will still stream on Sarah Boone, at least like covering something about it. It's just not going to be a trial stream. So let me clarify that I don't mean that she's not going to be doing a stream. I think she'll just have to call an audible and present something else. But it's possible she'll still go live. Redirect. Okay, I do see. I can redirect to Recovery Addict if you guys want to go check out that trial. So that might be what we do. And that I don't know anything about it. I just know, you know how like Law and Crime comes up with name schematics, like nicknames for trials? It's the husband burning trial, so. Biff says we're being let loose. Anywhere you go, guys. No, Biff runs. We're supposed to go together. Alright, so we'll do that. So that is set up to go to Recovery Addict. And we'll end it here, guys. I'll keep you updated on what we're doing for the storm. I mean, we have thought about hitting the road and going up north a bit. We're also thinking about barricading, whatever it's called, our one screen that always flies away. But we're not really in any type of emergency or evacuation notice, so I don't think I'm going anywhere, but who knows? Who knows, you guys? But I'll play it by ear what my power looks like. We might do a pre-trial watch tomorrow. The storm's not supposed to really be bad until Thursday, like early morning. So I hope that we'll be able to do Wednesday's motion arguments. If not, we'll do a rewind and I'll probably try to pop in somewhere and watch it somewhere else with you guys. Thursday's probably the day where power will be iffy, and whatever happens on Thursday in court, we'll do a late. We'll rewatch it another time. But yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna fly away. I'm not gonna fly away. Oh man. Alright, so we are redirecting to Recovery Addict. So if you guys are hanging out with us, coming that way, see you over there. See you at Club Classy tonight. I'll keep in touch on X, or see you guys tomorrow if I do a pretrial rewatch. It'll be another hearing, a separate hearing than what we watched today since we finished that one out. Big thank you to the mods today, not just for holding the chat down, but for sharing links, especially Factual Lie. Went and found, and that reminds me, one last thing. Factual Lie found a bunch of links for us, but also this bite from Rachel Kaufman. A lot of you know her. She's an attorney, criminal defense attorney in Fulton County. She gave this, like, frustrating update here that Fulton County jail elevators for attorneys are not working. So instead of the jail staff making accommodations to ensure inmates have access to their attorneys, jail staff is turning away attorneys and saying, tough luck, try again later. So shout out to Fulton County, shout out to Fulton County jails again. And big shout out to Rachel Kaufman. Here's the link to this tweet if you guys want to give her a follow. Very, very insightful and not afraid to speak her mind, which I really, really love. And honestly, my first interaction with her was, I thought she was biting a bit at Kayla, and I was like, no, I'm like, what do you mean? Why would you just come out and say that? And she's been cool, so very, very cool person. You guys all have a good one. See you somewhere out here on the YouTube universe. Bye!